never donated. In anatomy labs and medical schools across the world, students practice their craft on human cadavers. They study muscles, organs, nerves, the intricate systems that keep us alive. But here's the disturbing truth. Not all of those bodies were willingly given. Some were never donated. Some came from the unclaimed, the forgotten, the homeless, the imprisoned, lives written off by society before death and used without consent after. These people may have died alone in hospitals, on the streets, or behind bars. With no family to claim them and no formal will, their bodies were handed over to institutions as unclaimed property. This practice is often legal under vague or outdated laws, but legality doesn't make it ethical. Imagine dying in isolation, only to have your body cut open by strangers, your insides explored, your identity erased, even in death. Many medical schools no longer tell students where cadavers come from. They don't explain the backstory. No names, no histories, no humanity, just bodies. But behind every cadaver is a life. Someone who laughed, cried, struggled, someone who deserved dignity. And the fact that these individuals didn't get a proper burial or even consent reflects how disposable some lives are deemed by society. There's also a quiet normalization happening. Young doctors begin their training on bodies never meant to be dissected. They are taught to care for the living while unknowingly disregarding the dead. This contradiction between compassion and complicity reveals a hidden cruelty in a system meant to heal, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Prisoners are forced to work for free. In countless prisons across the world, especially in the United States, millions of inmates wake up each morning not to rehabilitation or education, but to labor. They clean, sew, manufacture, farm, cook, and assemble. They make military gear, license plates, furniture, and even products sold by major brands. Many of them are paid pennies per hour. Some are paid nothing at all. This isn't just incarceration, it's exploitation. While the public thinks prison is about paying your debt to society, the system quietly profits from that payment. Inmates, many jailed for non-violent offenses or unable to afford bail, are trapped in a cycle of forced labor. Refusing to work can lead to solitary confinement, loss of visitation rights, or denied parole. They are given no real choice: work or suffer worse. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution outlawed slavery except as punishment for a crime. That exception is no loophole. It is the very foundation of the prison labor industry. It allows modern slavery to thrive under a legal disguise. It lets corporations use human beings for cheap labor while the rest of society turns away, believing justice is being served. Imagine scrubbing toilets for hours, sewing uniforms, or harvesting crops for a system that devalues your life, all while your labor lines someone else's pockets. Then imagine doing it with no freedom, no safety, and no future. These are not just prisoners. Many are poor, black, mentally ill, or addicts. People failed long before they were locked away, and now their suffering is repackaged as productivity. Insects are disappearing fast. Bees, butterflies, beetles, moths, ants, dragonflies, creatures we rarely notice, are vanishing. Entire species are collapsing in silence. Studies show that insect populations have dropped by over 75% in some areas in just the past few decades. This isn't just about bugs dying. This is about the slow, quiet unraveling of the natural world, and most people don't even know it's happening. Insects pollinate 3/4 of the crops we eat. Without them, apples, coffee, chocolate, and vegetables would vanish from shelves. They feed the birds, the fish, the mammals that fill our forests. They clean waste, fertilize soil, and keep ecosystems alive. When they die, the dominoes fall, one species at a time, from the tiniest flower to the largest predator. Why is this happening? Pesticides poison them. Climate change shifts their breeding cycles. Cities expand, destroying their homes. Light pollution disorients their navigation. Fields once buzzing with life are now dead quiet. The hum of summer evenings is fading. The windshield splatter on long drives, once annoying, is now rare. That's not a good sign. It's a warning. People don't mourn insects. They don't rally for bees the way they do for polar bears. But without them, nature cannot function. They are the engineers of life, and we are killing them off with every spray, every expansion, every indifference. This isn't just environmental loss. It's ecological collapse, one that creeps in unnoticed until the silence becomes deafening, and by then, it may be too late to bring the buzz back. A few companies own most crop seeds. Most of the food you eat, your bread, rice, fruits, vegetables, starts with a seed. But what many don't know is that a handful of powerful corporations control nearly all of those seeds. Just 4 agrochemical giants, like Bayer, which bought Monsanto, Corteva, Syngenta, and BASF, own over 60% of the global seed market. This isn't just business. This is domination of life at its root. These companies patent genetically modified seeds, forcing farmers to buy new ones every season instead of saving seeds like their ancestors did. Saving seeds becomes illegal, sharing them becomes criminal, and small farmers who can't afford the annual costs are crushed under debt or forced out. In some countries, it's led to mass farmer suicides, men and women losing their land, dignity, and ability to feed their families. It goes deeper. These seeds are often engineered to resist the very chemicals these same companies sell. So farmers must also buy the pesticides and herbicides that go with them. It's a rigged cycle. Buy, spray, depend, repeat. Crops become uniform, soil depletes, diversity vanishes, and slowly, control over the global food supply narrows into the hands of a few. This is not just about farming. It's about food freedom. It's about who gets to grow, eat, and survive. When a few corporations own the source of life, they don't just shape agriculture, they shape power. And in a world increasingly fragile, letting profit dictate what grows in our fields puts all of us at risk, one harvest at a time. Organs are stolen and sold illegally. There is a black market where human organs are worth more than human lives. In poor villages, war zones, refugee camps, and even hospitals, organs are harvested without consent, taken from the vulnerable, the desperate, or the deceived. Kidneys, livers, hearts, even corneas are removed and sold to the highest bidder. This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now in shadows most people refuse to look into. Victims are often tricked into donating for false payments or medical help. Others are drugged and wake up with surgical scars and no explanation. Some are prisoners, executed in secret so their organs can be sold abroad. Some are children. In war-torn areas, bodies disappear. In corrupt clinics, papers vanish. And in the operating rooms of wealthy nations, someone receives a transplant, never questioning where it came from. Organ trafficking is a billion-dollar industry, fed by the desperation of both buyers and sellers. The rich pay to live longer. The poor pay with their bodies. One man's fresh start comes from another man's stolen flesh. And the system that enables this thrives on silence, poverty, and inequality. Behind every black market transplant is a story of exploitation, of a body reduced to spare parts, of someone who was seen not as a person, but as inventory. When life becomes a commodity, the human soul is lost. And in a world where money moves faster than morals, it's the voiceless who bleed while others heal. Rare blood types are nearly impossible to match. For most people, a hospital blood transfusion is just a bag away. But for others, those born with rare blood types, that bag might not exist at all. Less than 1% of the population carries certain ultra-rare blood types, like Rachel, Bombay, or Diego. For them, a car crash, a surgery, even childbirth becomes a gamble with no backup. Their lives hang on the hope that somewhere, someone with matching blood is still alive and willing to donate. The rarity isn't just statistical, it's geographical, ethnic, and deeply isolating. A person of Middle Eastern descent might need a donor from the same region, the same ancestry, even the same village. Blood isn't just about ABO or RH, it's a complex fingerprint of antigens, and the wrong match can kill faster than doing nothing at all. These patients are often listed in global emergency registries, waiting for that 1 in a million donor. Some die waiting, others receive risky transfusions, knowing it could cause severe immune reactions. Even when a donor is found, transporting the blood across borders, on time, under strict conditions, becomes a race against death. And most people never hear their stories. They live quietly, cautiously, avoiding injury, surgeries, and even pregnancy because of the danger. Every cut is a crisis, every accident a potential death sentence. It's a haunting irony. In a world flooded with technology and medicine, something as simple and ancient as blood still decides who lives and who doesn't. For some, survival isn't just medical, it's mathematical, and the odds are terrifyingly low. Your phone secretly shares your data. That device in your pocket, the one you check hundreds of times a day, knows more about you than most people ever will. It knows where you sleep, when you wake, who you talk to, what you search, where you go, how fast you drive, what you fear, what you desire. And all of that information, it's constantly being sent, tracked, and sold, usually without your knowledge or clear consent. Every app you install, every permission you grant, even every photo you take can become part of a digital profile built to monitor and manipulate you. GPS location, microphone access, browsing habits, facial recognition, it's all up for grabs. Companies harvest this data and sell it to advertisers, data brokers, political groups, and sometimes even governments. You are not the customer. You are the product. Your phone is listening more than you think, not always with intent to spy, but with intent to sell. It detects your moods, predicts your actions, and feeds you content designed to influence how you think, vote, and spend. That personalized ad you saw, it's not magic, it's surveillance, wrapped in convenience. Even turning off permissions doesn't stop it all. Background trackers, hidden code, and app loopholes allow your behavior to be mined like digital gold, and once it's collected, you can't take it back. This is the quiet trade we've made: comfort for control, connection for privacy. In chasing convenience, we've handed over our lives, piece by piece, to machines that never sleep and systems we never agreed to trust. People are killed for being witches. In the 21st century, long after the last burning stake in Salem, long after the Enlightenment, science, and global human rights, people are still being murdered for being called witches. In countries across Africa, South Asia, and parts of Latin America, women, children, the elderly, and even people with disabilities are hunted, tortured, and killed for casting spells, stealing luck, or causing illness. Accusation alone is enough to end a life. These so-called witch hunts aren't just relics of the past. They are happening now, quietly, brutally, often with the blessing or silence of local authorities. A child with autism might be seen as cursed. A woman who survives when others die might be labeled a witch. A jealous neighbor, a family dispute, or a failed crop can turn suspicion into execution. Victims are beaten, burned alive, buried alive, hacked to death. Some are paraded naked before being killed. And it isn't just rural superstition. Sometimes entire communities participate. Sometimes it's orchestrated by religious leaders or local politicians to deflect blame or assert control. In some cases, it's a calculated way to steal land, silence dissent, or punish independence. The pain doesn't stop at death. Survivors, those accused but not killed, are outcasts. Children of the accused are shunned. Families are destroyed. Entire villages live in fear. There are no trials, no evidence, no defense, just fear, hate, and myth passed down like poison. We think the world has moved on, but there are places where belief still kills, and the fire hasn't gone out. It just burns quietly now in the dark corners no one wants to look. Slavery still exists worldwide. We like to think slavery ended long ago, abolished in history books, conquered by moral progress. But today, over 40 million people live in some form of modern slavery. Not in the past, right now, in factories, mines, brothels, homes, fishing boats, and even supply chains of products we use daily. Slavery didn't disappear. It evolved, quieter, darker, harder to see. Men are trapped in forced labor, building cities they'll never afford to live in. Women are trafficked across borders, sold as domestic servants or sex workers, beaten into obedience. Children mine rare minerals for smartphones, or stitch clothing in sweatshops under locked doors. Victims are lured by fake job offers, kidnapped, born into it, or crushed by poverty with no way out. Their passports taken, their voices silenced, their suffering ignored. They work for nothing, live in fear, and belong to someone else. This isn't just happening in distant corners of the world. It's happening in cities, neighborhoods, and industries we interact with daily. From cheap fashion to cheap chocolate, from domestic cleaning to construction, slavery hides in the convenience we take for granted. The most terrifying part is how invisible it's become, hidden behind respectable brands, legal loopholes, and cultural silence. Governments look away, corporations avoid responsibility, and millions remain in chains, unseen, unheard, and unfree. Modern slavery wears a different mask, but the cruelty is the same. It thrives where there's profit in pain and indifference in power. It isn't history, it's reality, and it's closer than we think. Fake porn ruins lives with no punishment. A woman opens her phone and finds a video of herself, naked, moaning, violated. Only it's not her. It's her face, her voice, her mannerisms, but someone else's body, or sometimes AI generated from scratch. It's a deepfake, porn created without her knowledge, stitched together with terrifying accuracy. It spreads fast, through group chats, forums, revenge pages, and even among co-workers or classmates. Her reputation crumbles, her mental health spirals, but legally, there's almost nothing she can do. Deepfake porn doesn't require consent, only a photo, something as simple as a selfie, a LinkedIn headshot, or a picture from social media. With AI tools now freely available, anyone with a grudge, obsession, or twisted curiosity can create explicit videos in minutes. The victim doesn't even need to know it exists until the damage is already done. And the worst part? Most laws around the world haven't caught up. In many places, it's not even considered illegal. Police don't know how to handle it. Platforms delay removing it, if they remove it at all. The creators hide behind anonymity. The victims are left to explain, to defend themselves for something they never did, never chose, never imagined. Their jobs are lost, relationships destroyed. They live in constant fear of strangers recognizing them, of friends or family believing the lie. This isn't just harassment, it's identity theft of the most intimate kind. It's rape without touch, but the violation feels just as deep. And for every victim who speaks up, there are hundreds who suffer in silence, shamed into disappearing while their image is used to entertain strangers in the darkest corners of the internet. Inmates fight fires for pennies. When wildfires rage across states like California, brave teams rush into the flames, risking their lives to save homes, forests, and lives. But hidden among those crews are prison inmates, men and women in orange jumpsuits, armed with axes and hoses, battling the same deadly blazes as professionals. The difference? They're paid cents on the hour, sometimes nothing at all. These inmates train hard. They sleep in rough camps. They hike miles with heavy gear. They face collapsing trees, smoke-filled lungs, and searing heat. And yet, when the fire is out, they go back behind bars with no recognition and almost no pay. They do the same dangerous work as firefighters, but for a fraction of the dignity. Many are non-violent offenders, some incarcerated simply because they couldn't afford bail. They risk their lives for a system that sees them as expendable. And here's the cruelest part. When they're released, most are banned from becoming real firefighters because of their records. They can die protecting your town, but they're not allowed to protect it in uniform later. It's a cycle built on desperation. Prisoners volunteer because it's one of the only options that offers a breath of freedom, a sense of purpose, or a shorter sentence. But that choice comes with invisible chains. It's not rehabilitation, it's exploitation. This is not justice. This is a system that profits off pain, rewards bravery with scraps, and teaches that even heroism can be stripped of worth if it comes from behind a prison wall. War crimes often go unpunished. Massacres of civilians, rape used as a weapon, the bombing of hospitals, the starvation of entire cities, these are not accidents of war. These are deliberate acts, war crimes by definition. And yet, in most cases, no one is held accountable. Soldiers follow orders, generals deny knowledge, governments shift blame, the victims are buried, and the stories are lost in the noise of politics, power, and propaganda. War crimes are supposed to be prosecuted in international courts, but justice moves slow, if it moves at all. Powerful countries shield their own. Evidence vanishes. Witnesses are silenced. Trials, if they happen, take years. And in many conflicts, there isn't even a courtroom, only silence. The world watches atrocities unfold on live TV, then moves on when the headlines fade. Some of the most horrific acts of the past century, the Rwandan genocide, the use of chemical weapons in Syria, the torture chambers in Iraq, have seen little to no justice. Victims become statistics. Survivors are told to heal, while their abusers walk free, sometimes rewarded, sometimes promoted. The message is clear. If you have enough power, cruelty has no consequence. And it continues. In Yemen, in Myanmar, in Palestine, in Sudan, crimes are being committed as the world debates both sides. Behind every war crime is a human being who screamed, begged, bled. But courts demand evidence, witnesses, bureaucracy. War criminals demand only chaos. And in the space between, justice dies, quietly, like so many of the people it was meant to protect. Too much silence can make you hallucinate. Silence is often seen as peaceful, a rare escape from the noise of daily life. But when silence becomes total, it doesn't bring calm, it brings chaos. In the world's quietest places, like anechoic chambers, designed to absorb all sound, people don't relax. They unravel. Within minutes, they start to hear things that aren't there. Their own heartbeat grows deafening. They hear blood rushing through their veins, their bones shifting, even the faint grind of muscles moving. And then the mind begins to slip. Deprived of all external sound, the brain turns inward. It starts to fill the void. People report phantom whispers, ghostly footsteps, strange mechanical noises, none of them real. The longer the silence lasts, the worse it gets. Balance fails. Time distorts. Some feel like they're floating. Others panic, cry, or beg to leave. No one has ever lasted more than a short while before needing out. The silence becomes unbearable, not peaceful but oppressive. This is because our brains are wired for stimulation, constant input, sound, feedback. Without it, the mind begins to invent its own reality. The line between real and imagined starts to blur. The silence isn't quiet. It's loud with everything you fear and try to ignore. In extreme silence, you don't just lose sound, you begin to lose yourself. The voices you buried, the noise you escaped from, all rise up. And in that perfect stillness, the mind doesn't rest. It rebels. It reaches for chaos, just to remember it's alive. Many missing people are never found. A person vanishes, a teenager walking home, a mother stepping out for groceries, a man taking a late-night drive, and just like that, they're gone. No note, no warning, no trace. Families file reports, flyers go up, police promise to look, but days turn into months, then years. Eventually, the search fades, and the person who once laughed, loved, cried, is reduced to a cold case file gathering dust. Every year, hundreds of thousands of people go missing around the world. While many are found, too many never are. Some are victims of trafficking, hidden in networks that stretch across continents. Others are lost to violence, bodies buried in unmarked graves, dumped in remote forests, or swallowed by rivers. Some are runaways who fell into danger. Some were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. For the families left behind, life becomes a waking nightmare. There's no closure, no body to bury, no truth to hold on to. Birthdays pass in silence. Rooms are left untouched. Every phone call brings a jolt of hope and fear. They imagine their loved one alive, then dead, then alive again, over and over. They are trapped in grief with no end, and the system fails them. Underfunded police departments stop investigating. Media attention fades unless the case is sensational. If the missing person is poor, a minority, or from a marginalized group, the search may barely begin. Society forgets them, but their families never do. Behind every missing poster is a human story, and behind every story is someone still waiting, begging the world not to look away. Drug companies hide life-saving info. Behind the glowing ads, the polished logos, and the promises of cures, pharmaceutical companies have made choices that cost lives deliberately. Life-saving research, buried, dangerous side effects, concealed, treatments that work, shelved because they don't bring enough profit. These are not conspiracy theories. They are documented realities, proven in lawsuits, whistleblower testimony, and internal leaks. Sometimes it's a cancer drug that worked too well, so well, in fact, that patients no longer needed long-term prescriptions. Other times, it's an antidepressant tested on teens that caused suicidal thoughts. But the trial data was quietly rewritten. Drugs approved and sold for years were later pulled from the shelves, but only after thousands were harmed or killed. Not because the science wasn't there, but because the truth was inconvenient to the bottom line. Even during global health crises, some companies prioritized patents over people. Countries begged for affordable treatments while Big Pharma lobbied to block generic versions. And in the shadows, deals were made. Money exchange, data silence, and those without insurance or influence left to suffer. Patients became products, healing became a business strategy, and the very industry designed to save lives began gambling with them instead. Doctors are often kept in the dark. Regulators are pressured. Studies are ghost-written by marketers, not scientists. The public sees smiling actors in commercials, while behind the scenes, truth is negotiated like currency. People died waiting for the cure that already existed. Families mourned while profits soared, and the trust we place in medicine was quietly bought, sold, and buried, just like the truth. Cheap clothes often come from child labor. That $5 shirt, the fast fashion haul, the discount jeans you bought in bulk, someone paid the real price. And too often, that someone was a child. In sweatshops hidden behind factory doors in countries like Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and even parts of Latin America, children as young as 6 are working brutal hours to make the clothes that fill our closets. Their small hands stitch, cut, dye, and fold for pennies a day, trapped in conditions that would break most adults. These kids aren't going to school. They aren't playing. They're inhaling toxic chemicals, losing fingers to machinery, and collapsing from exhaustion. Some are locked inside with no breaks, forced to meet impossible quotas under threats of violence or firing. Many are lied to, trafficked, or handed over by families too poor to survive without sending them to work. And yet, Their suffering is invisible. The tags on our clothes say, "Made in," but never say who made them, how they lived, or what they lost. Corporations deny knowledge, governments look the other way, and consumers, caught in a cycle of trends and sales, rarely stop to ask why some fashion is so cheap. The truth is devastating. Every bargain has a hidden cost. Somewhere, a child gave up their safety, health, and future so we could wear something once and throw it away. Their lives are being traded for our convenience. Their silence is stitched into every seam. And unless we start to care, the fashion industry will keep dressing itself in suffering. Most of the ocean remains unexplored. Over 70% of our planet is ocean, yet more than 80% of it remains a mystery, unmapped, unseen, and untouched by human eyes. We've sent men to the moon, robots to Mars, telescopes to the edge of the universe, but the deepest parts of our own Earth are still in darkness. Beneath the waves lies a world that could hold answers to ancient mysteries, cures to diseases, species unknown to science, and dangers we don't yet understand. Entire mountain ranges taller than the Rockies are hidden underwater. Vast trenches stretch miles deep, cloaked in pressure and silence. There are creatures in those depths that glow, stretch, camouflage, and kill in ways we can't comprehend. We've barely scratched the surface, and what we've found so far is awe-inspiring and terrifying. But it's not just curiosity that's at stake. Our ignorance is dangerous. Oil companies drill blindly into fragile ecosystems. Deep-sea mining threatens species we haven't even discovered. Plastic is filling places we've never visited. Climate change is warming the oceans, disturbing currents and coral reefs. But we don't fully understand what that means because we haven't explored it. The ocean controls our weather, our air, our food. It is the lungs and lifeblood of Earth, yet we treat it like an afterthought, a dumping ground, a resource to exploit, not a world to protect. What lives down there could save us or destroy us, but we won't know because we haven't looked. We fear the unknown, and yet we let it grow, undisturbed, beneath the surface of our own world. The real alien planet isn't in space, it's right beneath our feet, behind a veil of blue. More people die from selfies than sharks. Sharks terrify us. Sharp teeth, dark waters, primal fear. But the truth is far stranger. You're more likely to die taking a selfie than in a shark attack. Every year, dozens of people fall to their deaths from cliffs, drown in oceans, get hit by trains or crash cars, all while trying to capture the perfect photo. The statistics are clear. Selfies kill more people than one of the most feared predators on Earth. It's not vanity, it's obsession. In the race for likes, validation, and viral attention, people take bigger risks. They lean off high ledges, hang from buildings, pose on train tracks, or in dangerous waters. One slip, one distraction, and it's over. What begins as a moment of fun ends with a shattered body and a grieving family, all for a photo that never gets posted. Entire tourist sites have become death zones. No selfie signs go ignored. Phones become weapons, pulling people out of reality and into a false sense of control. In those final seconds, it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels worth it. Meanwhile, sharks, creatures vilified by movies and myths, kill fewer than 10 people a year, worldwide. Most are accidents, not attacks, yet we fear the shark more than the screen in our hands. This is the new face of danger, not lurking in the deep, but glowing in our palm. A digital hunger so powerful, it can lead us to the edge, literally. And sometimes we fall, chasing a moment the world was never meant to see. Towns are destroyed for corporate gain. Entire towns, homes, schools, churches, cemeteries have been wiped off the map, not by war or disaster, but by corporations chasing profit. Coal, oil, lithium, timber, water. When the ground beneath a town holds something valuable, lives above it become disposable. Families are told to leave. Some are offered pennies for their property. Others are threatened, sued, or simply forced out. And when resistance rises, bulldozers follow. One day, there's a thriving community. The next, it's a ghost town, flattened, swallowed by open pit mines or underwater behind new dams. The people who live there become environmental refugees, scattered without compensation, without history. Their homes are gone. Their past is erased. And the land they once cared for now bleeds chemicals into the soil and poisons the air. In West Virginia, entire mountaintops were blown apart for coal, burying towns in rubble. In Central Africa, villages were cleared for rare earth mining used in smartphones. In South America, forests and indigenous lands have been torched for soy and cattle. The pattern repeats: displacement, destruction, denial, all while companies post record profits and release glossy PR campaigns promising sustainability. What's left behind is often toxic: cracked earth, contaminated water, broken families, and generations raised in the shadow of what once was. Graves are dug up, schools are torn down, memory becomes rubble. These aren't isolated tragedies, they're calculated decisions, and behind every boardroom strategy, there's a child who lost their bedroom, an elder who lost their ancestors' land, a town that no longer exists, all because someone, somewhere, decided the land was worth more than the people living on it. Some inmates are forcibly sterilized in prisons across the world, and even in modern democratic nations. There are women who have had their ability to bear children taken from them without true consent. Some were coerced with promises of early release. Others were lied to, told it was a routine medical procedure. A few weren't even told at all. Their wombs were taken behind locked doors, inside prison clinics, under the authority of a system that viewed them not as people, but as problems to erase. This isn't a dark chapter from a forgotten era. It's recent. In the last decade, incarcerated women in places like California reported being sterilized without full knowledge. Many were poor, black, indigenous, or disabled. Groups long targeted by eugenics programs designed to control who gets to reproduce. These women were seen as unfit mothers before they even had the chance to become one. Sterilization wasn't presented as a choice. It was pressure, manipulation, fear. A medical form slid across a table, a doctor who didn't explain, a quiet surgery with irreversible consequences. When they spoke up, they were ignored or punished, and when the truth came out, it barely made headlines. The message was clear: your body isn't yours, your future doesn't matter, you don't deserve a family, only a file number. It's not just a violation of rights, it's a violation of humanity. These are not just inmates, they are women, they are human beings, and their ability to create life was taken in silence, while the world looked the other way. Animals are vanishing rapidly. We are living through a mass extinction, and most people don't even know it. Species are disappearing faster than at any point since the age of the dinosaurs. Not one or two here and there, but entire populations vanishing in decades. Elephants, tigers, rhinos, gorillas, icons of the wild are being hunted, poisoned, and pushed out of their homes. But it's not just the majestic creatures we're losing. It's frogs, birds, bees, fish, animals we rarely notice but desperately need. Every day, somewhere on Earth, a species dies out forever, not in museums, but in silence. A bird that no longer sings, a fish that no longer swims, a mammal no one will ever see again. Habitat destruction, climate change, poaching, pollution. Humans are the common thread. Forests are turned into farmland. Rivers are clogged with plastic, oceans heat and acidify, and animals, confused and cornered, simply die off. Scientists call it biological annihilation. It's happening so fast that many species disappear before we even discover them. The web of life is unraveling, strand by strand, as ecosystems collapse under the weight of human greed. This isn't just about wildlife, it's about us. These animals pollinate our crops, balance our climate, keep our soil healthy, and our world alive. When they go, we follow, slowly but certainly. There won't be a warning bell, just a quiet vanishing, empty skies, silent forests, dead seas, and by the time we realize what we've done, it won't just be the animals we've lost, it will be the part of ourselves that once coexisted with them. Empty ships drift with dead crews. In the vast, unpoliced oceans, there are ships that drift endlessly, silent, decaying, ghost-like. Their engines long dead, their radios silent, their decks rusted and cracked by sun and salt. Inside, the story is even darker. Some of these vessels carry the remains of their crews, sailors who died alone at sea, their bodies decomposing in the cabins, never buried, never mourned. These are not legends. These are real ghost ships, adrift in modern times. Many come from rogue fishing fleets or illegal cargo routes. Crews, often trafficked or forced laborers, are abandoned by captains seeking profit without accountability. Once the ship's utility ends, when fuel runs out, when fishing quotas are exhausted, when authorities get too close, the crew is left to die. Some starve, some fall ill with no medicine, no help. Others commit suicide, trapped in steel coffins, thousands of miles from home. And then the ship drifts, aimlessly, for weeks, months, even years. Sometimes they wash ashore on distant coasts, carrying only the bones of the forgotten. No flags, no records, no one looking for them. Sometimes they're never found at all, swallowed by storms or silence. The world depends on the ocean for trade, food, and transport. Yet the people working these ships, the most invisible labor force on Earth, often vanish without a trace. Their deaths don't make headlines. Their ships become tombs, and their lives are lost to a sea that takes everything and returns nothing. It's not horror fiction. It's human neglect left floating in open water. Child abuse is widely hidden. It happens behind closed doors, in quiet rooms, in places that should feel safe. Homes, schools, churches, daycares. Every day, millions of children are abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, and no one knows. Or worse, someone knows and says nothing. The bruises are explained away. The silence is mistaken for shyness. The fear in their eyes is ignored because the truth is too uncomfortable to face. Most child abuse never makes the news. It doesn't come with sirens or headlines. It comes in whispers, shame, and silence. Victims are often too young to speak up, too scared to tell the truth, too conditioned to think it's normal. Abusers are often trusted. Parents, relatives, teachers, coaches, people who know how to hide in plain sight. For every case reported, many more go unnoticed. Authorities miss signs. Social systems fail. Communities look the other way. Sometimes abuse is discovered only when it's too late, when the child runs away, lashes out, or dies. And even then, people say, "We never saw it coming," but the signs were there. The fear, the withdrawal, the sudden change in behavior, the unexplained injuries. And still, we live in a world where children must prove they are being hurt before anyone believes them. This silence is not just ignorance, it's complicity, and it leaves children trapped in cycles of pain they carry into adulthood, scarred, distrustful, and often broken. We call children our future, yet allow so many to be broken in the present. Abuse doesn't always leave a mark on the skin. Sometimes it leaves a hole in the soul, and no one is looking closely enough to see it. Graves are reused due to space limits. Beneath the serene silence of many cemeteries lies an unsettling truth. Some graves are not final. In cities around the world where land is limited and populations grow, graves are quietly reused, bones are moved, headstones removed, new coffins placed on top or in the same space. The promise of eternal rest becomes a temporary lease, often without the family's knowledge or long after the dead have been forgotten. In places like Europe, Asia, and South America, burial plots are leased for 10, 20, maybe 30 years. After that, if no one renews the lease or pays a fee, the grave is open, Remains are exhumed, placed in boxes, stored in communal ossuaries, or sometimes discarded. Then the earth is flattened, cleaned, and sold again. A new name, a new coffin, a new story, laid over what was once sacred ground. Even in death, space is a commodity. Cemeteries, especially in dense cities, have run out of room. Mausoleums stretch upward like apartment buildings for the dead. Graves are stacked. Families must bury loved ones above each other or wait for someone else's lease to expire. In some countries, bulldozers have cleared old cemeteries to make room for malls or roads, the bones buried beneath concrete and progress. It forces a haunting question. What happens when there's no room left for the dead? When the ground meant to preserve memory erases it instead? We treat graves as sacred, but in the end, even the resting places of the dead can be sold, reused, and forgotten, just like the people buried there. Nations still build bioweapons. In secret labs, far from public eyes, some of the world's most powerful countries are engineering the deadliest weapons known to humanity. Not bombs or bullets, but viruses, bacteria, toxins, invisible killers that can spread silently through the air, the water, or a single human touch. These are bioweapons, and despite international bans and treaties, they are still being developed, tested, and stockpiled behind layers of denial. Governments say it's for defense, for research, for preparedness, but the same knowledge that protects can also destroy. A modified flu virus made to be more lethal, a strain of anthrax that resists treatment, pathogens designed to target specific ethnic genes or trigger mass panic. These aren't science fiction. They are projects buried deep in military budgets and classified files. History has already shown us the consequences. In the past, entire populations were infected as experiments. Soldiers were used as test subjects without consent. Entire villages were poisoned just to measure effects, and the world barely blinked. Today, the threat is even worse. With modern technology, bioweapons can be created faster, spread further, and remain undetected longer. A single vial can wipe out a city. A lab accident can become a pandemic. And in the wrong hands, or the right ones with the wrong motives, bioengineering can become a silent war no one sees coming. There is no siren for a virus, no crater to examine, just bodies, fear, and confusion. And behind it all, someone in a suit calling it classified. We fear nukes for their explosion, but the deadliest weapons leave no fire, just breathless silence. Organs are taken from live prisoners. In hidden hospitals and guarded facilities, far from oversight or justice, a horrifying reality unfolds. Prisoners, alive and breathing, have their organs removed against their will, not after death, not with consent, while alive. In some regimes, this is not rumor or myth, but a documented pattern of human rights abuse. Political prisoners, religious minorities, or dissidents are targeted, labeled criminals, and used as living sources for organs. Their bodies become state-owned inventory. Victims are screened for health without explanation. Blood is drawn, compatibility tested, and then, without trial or appeal, they vanish. Families never hear from them again. Days later, someone across the world gets a matching heart, kidney, or liver. Fast-tracked, no questions asked. The surgery is clean. The paperwork looks perfect. But the donor, dead, silence, discarded. These prisoners are not offered anesthetic. Their organs are often harvested in brutal conditions. Some are cut open while still conscious. Their deaths are slow, hidden beneath sterile masks and government secrecy. And the profits? Massive. A single black market transplant can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It is a business of blood, built on fear and silence. This is not a broken system. It is an engineered one, designed to erase lives deemed inconvenient. Those who speak out disappear. Those who receive the organs often never know or never care where they came from. It is the industrialization of human suffering dressed as healthcare, a life stolen to prolong another. And behind it, a chilling question: what kind of world allows the living to be carved apart and calls it medical advancement? Ads use mind tricks to sell. Every time you scroll, watch, click, or walk down a store aisle, you're being psychologically studied, manipulated by design. Advertisers don't just want your attention, they want your trust, your emotion, your impulse, and they know how to get it. Ads today aren't just about products, they are engineered experiences, crafted using psychological tricks that bypass your logic and speak straight to your brain's deepest triggers. They use color to control emotion, red for urgency, blue for trust, yellow for joy. They use music to shape your mood, repetition to create familiarity, and scarcity to spark panic. Only 3 left. Limited time. They flash celebrity faces and happy families, tricking you into believing their product is the path to love, beauty, or success. They show you what you're missing, then offer themselves as the fix. These aren't guesses, they're strategies built on behavioral science. Ads use eye-tracking data to guide where you look. They study your pauses, your searches, your clicks. They exploit insecurities they helped create, making you feel too old, too fat, too poor, too plain, then selling you solutions for the problems they planted. And the scariest part? You don't even realize it's happening. Your mind fills in the gaps. You think you made a choice, but that desire was placed there hours, days, even weeks ago. What you think is free will is often a script written by people who know exactly how your brain works. You're not just the customer, you're the experiment, and every purchase is a result they've already predicted. Oil giants hid climate change. Facts. As far back as the 1970s, major oil companies like Exxon knew. Their own scientists warned them. Burning fossil fuels would heat the planet, melt ice caps, raise sea levels, and unleash climate chaos. The science was clear, devastatingly clear. But instead of sounding the alarm, these corporations buried the truth. They silenced the research, scrubbed the memos, and launched a campaign of doubt that would span decades. They funded fake experts, deceptive studies, and PR strategies designed to confuse the public. They told us climate change was uncertain, exaggerated, maybe even a hoax, all while their internal models predicted with frightening accuracy what would come: droughts, floods, fires, rising oceans, dying ecosystems. They didn't just ignore the truth, they weaponized denial. While they raked in billions, the world burned slowly. Politicians stalled, the media debated, and the window to act shrank. Generations were raised believing the crisis was distant or debatable, but it wasn't. It was right on schedule, just as those oil-funded scientists had warned. Now we live in its shadow. Wildfires swallow towns, hurricanes tear through coastlines, heat waves kill silently, and yet the companies that knew and lied still operate freely, still profit, still drill. This isn't just environmental neglect, it's betrayal, a crime against the future, and as children grow up in a world they never damaged, they'll carry the weight of decisions made in boardrooms decades before they were born. The oil giants knew, and they chose money over the planet, profit over people, silence over survival. The cost? All of us. Cities are built over toxic sites. Beneath playgrounds, schools, and apartment buildings in cities around the world lies a buried truth, one soaked in chemicals, radiation, and industrial waste. Entire neighborhoods have been built over toxic sites, old landfills, chemical dumps, factory ruins, even nuclear testing grounds. Developers cover the poison with dirt and promises, and the people who move in never know that the ground beneath their feet is slowly killing them. Children play where barrels of waste once leaked into the soil. Families grow gardens in land tainted by lead, arsenic, mercury, or worse. Water pipes draw from contaminated sources. Air vents fill homes with invisible fumes. And when sickness spreads, cancer clusters, birth defects, mysterious illnesses, no one connects the dots at first. It's bad luck, genetics, or just coincidence. But it isn't. In many cases, governments and corporations knew the risks. They covered it up to protect profits or reputations. In some places, the land was declared safe after minimal testing, just enough to meet legal standards, not enough to ensure real safety. People were sacrificed for convenience. Their homes became experiments, their bodies evidence. This isn't rare. From Love Canal in New York to radioactive sites in Kazakhstan, from former battlefields to abandoned mines, cities rise where danger was never removed, only buried. And when the truth comes out, it's often too late. The damage is done. The toxins don't disappear. They linger for decades, seeping into future generations. The foundation of comfort, safety, and community is sometimes built on rot. And no one tells you until you get sick. Whistleblowers are jailed or killed in a world where truth is often buried to protect power. The people who dare to reveal it, the whistleblowers, pay the highest price. These are not traitors or criminals. They are insiders who expose corruption, war crimes, environmental disasters, corporate fraud, and human rights abuses. They speak up when no one else will, and for that many are silenced through prison bars, exile, or death. Some are thrown into solitary confinement, stripped of rights and branded as enemies of the state. Others are hunted, blacklisted, or mysteriously disappear. A few are found dead, labeled suicides, accidents, or left with no explanation at all. Their crime? Telling the world what it wasn't supposed to know. Governments promise protection for whistleblowers, but behind closed doors, they punish them. Corporations install hotlines, but quietly crush dissenters from within. The message is clear. Loyalty matters more than truth. Secrecy matters more than justice. And if you break the silence, you break yourself. Think of those who exposed illegal surveillance, mass killings, poison in our water, or billions in stolen money. They weren't rewarded. They were hunted, their lives shattered, their names dragged through the mud. The truth they gave us came at the cost of their freedom, their safety, sometimes their lives. When truth becomes a threat and honesty is treated like treason, the world turns upside down. We rely on whistleblowers to expose the rot we can't see, but we let them bleed in silence, because the truth may set us free, but it too often buries the one who speaks it. Wars help weapon makers profit. Every missile launched, every bomb dropped, every gun fired, someone gets paid. Behind the smoke and blood of war, there are clean offices, quiet meetings, and rising stock prices. War may look like chaos, but for arms manufacturers, it's business, very profitable business. Companies like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and BAE Systems thrive not despite war, but because of it. When conflicts erupt, so do defense contracts. Politicians talk peace while quietly signing billion-dollar deals. Jets, tanks, drones, bullets, ordered in bulk, shipped with urgency. And the more prolonged the war, the better the margins. There's no incentive for resolution, no reward for peace. A ceasefire means lost revenue. A soldier's death is a tragedy, but a restocked weapons order is a win. It gets darker. These companies lobby governments to increase defense spending. They fund think tanks that shape foreign policy. Some even help write the very laws that keep the war machine humming. When one war ends, they pivot to the next. A new enemy, a new threat, a new reason to build, sell, and profit. In places like Yemen, Syria, Ukraine, Gaza, people die under weapons stamped Made in USA, Made in UK, Made in France. Civilians are caught between politics and profit, their lives reduced to collateral damage in someone else's spreadsheet. War is not just fought with weapons. It's built on contracts, protected by policy, and fueled by greed. And while children bleed in streets they used to play in, CEOs sit comfortably, knowing every explosion is good for business. Fake medicine kills thousands. In clinics, pharmacies, and market stalls around the world, people seek help, desperate for relief, clinging to hope in a bottle. But many of those bottles are lies. Counterfeit medicine, made to look real, is silently killing thousands every year. These pills and syrups may have the right labels, the trusted brand names, even the seals and packaging, but inside, there's nothing, or worse, poison. From life-saving antibiotics to cancer treatments, insulin, and even children's fever medicine, fakes flood the global market. Some contain chalk or sugar, others hold toxic chemicals, heavy metals, or the wrong active ingredients. When someone swallows these, they believe they're healing, but their condition worsens, infections spread, organs shut down, and by the time doctors realize what's happened, it's often too late. Most of the victims are poor. They live in countries with weak regulations, no access to safe healthcare, and a black market that thrives in the shadows. But even wealthy nations aren't immune. Online pharmacies, shady imports, and corrupted supply chains let fake drugs slip through unnoticed. Behind the silent epidemic are criminal networks making billions, cutting corners with no concern for human life. The victims are not just statistics. They are mothers treating sick children, diabetics trying to survive, cancer patients clinging to one last chance. Their trust is exploited. Their lives are gambled away for profit. This isn't just fraud. It's murder with a label, and it's happening quietly, every hour, every day, while the world continues to swallow pills that may be killing them from the inside out. Ocean plastic outnumbers stars. Look up on a clear night and you'll see stars, millions of them, scattered across the black sky. Now look down into the ocean and you'll find something far more disturbing. Plastic. More pieces of plastic than there are stars in the entire Milky Way. An estimated 5 trillion fragments now drift through our seas, bags, bottles, straws, microbeads, and broken shards of things once useful, now eternal waste. It's everywhere, in the deepest trenches, on remote beaches, inside whales, turtles, seabirds, in the bellies of fish that end up on our plates. Scientists have found microplastics in sea salt, in bottled water, even in human blood. We are eating and breathing our pollution, bit by invisible bit. This didn't happen overnight. It happened slowly, silently, over decades of carelessness. Plastic doesn't disappear. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces until it's too small to see, but never gone. Every toothbrush you've ever used still exists somewhere. Every wrapper, every cup, every plastic toy from childhood, drifting or buried, refusing to rot. The ocean, once a symbol of purity and life, has become a plastic graveyard. Marine animals choke, starve, and suffocate. Coral reefs are suffocating. Entire ecosystems are collapsing under our trash. And the companies that sell it? They blame the consumer. Recycle more, they say, while producing billions more tons every year. This isn't just pollution. It's a planet-wide poisoning. And it's not just the sea that's drowning. It's us, sinking slowly in a tide of our own creation, one piece of plastic at a time. Cults still exist, and secret cults aren't just stories from the past or bizarre headlines about remote compounds. They still exist, here and now, hidden in cities, suburbs, and online communities. They don't always wear robes or chant in forests. Today, they look like wellness groups, self-help seminars, spiritual retreats, or political movements. What they have in common is control. Slowly, quietly, they take over minds, bodies, and lives. People don't join cults because they're weak. They join because they're vulnerable, lost, grieving, searching for purpose or connection. And cults know how to find them. They love bomb new members with praise, isolate them from outsiders, and slowly shift their beliefs. The group becomes family, the leader becomes God, and dissent becomes sin. Behind closed doors, the truth is darker. Members are often abused, psychologically, physically, sexually. Children grow up inside without knowing any other reality. Money is drained, choices disappear, fear replaces faith. Escape can feel impossible, even dangerous. Those who leave are stalked, harassed, or smeared. Some vanish altogether. Modern cults use the internet to spread faster than ever through YouTube gurus, private chat groups, influencers claiming secret truth. They promise healing, freedom, enlightenment. But what they deliver is obedience, dependence, and trauma disguised as love. Most cults are never exposed. Most victims are never believed. And by the time the outside world notices, the damage is already done. Families broken, lives erased, minds rewired. The scariest part? Cults thrive not because they're powerful, but because they're invisible, until it's too late to escape. Killer AI is already in use, not in some far-off dystopian future, not in science fiction. Right now, artificial intelligence is being used to identify, target, and kill. Drones that pick and follow a human target without a pilot. Algorithms that decide who lives and who dies based on facial recognition, heat signatures, movement patterns. Autonomous weapons, machines programmed to make lethal decisions with no human in the loop. This is not theory. This is happening. In military zones across the Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe, AI-guided weapon systems are deployed in real conflicts. Some are used for surveillance, others for airstrikes. Some are small enough to fit in a backpack. They swarm, they hunt, and they kill faster than any human could react. The logic is chilling. Machines don't hesitate. They don't panic. They don't question orders. But they also don't understand innocence. They can't read fear, surrender, or context. A misread heat signature, a glitch in code, a blurred face, and someone's life is erased in milliseconds. Governments deny full autonomy. Tech companies stay quiet. Treaties lag behind. There are no clear rules, no global consensus, and in the shadows of secrecy and innovation, the age of machine warfare begins, not with a bang, but with silence, because these weapons don't scream, they don't feel, they don't bury the dead. We've created machines that can kill without conscience, and once that line is crossed, it's almost impossible to go back. The future of war is already here, silent, fast, and coded in ones and zeros. Governments do secret tests on people. In the shadows of history and behind classified doors, governments have carried out secret experiments on their own people, without consent, without warning. In the name of science, security, and power, ordinary men, women, even children have been exposed to radiation, chemicals, diseases, and psychological torment, all without knowing they were being used as test subjects. In the U.S., the CIA's MK Ultra program drugged citizens with LSD to study mind control. Some never knew they were dosed. In the 1950s and 60s, soldiers were exposed to mustard gas and atomic blasts to observe the effects. Pregnant women were fed radioactive drinks. Prisoners were injected with cancer cells. Black men in Tuskegee were left untreated for syphilis for decades just to see what would happen if the disease ran its course. Other countries have done the same. Biological weapons tested in remote villages, nerve agents released in subways, psychological warfare experiments on soldiers and students. Many of these victims were chosen because they were poor, powerless, voiceless, those least likely to be missed or believed. These were not rogue scientists. These were state-backed programs, funded, documented, buried, and when exposed, the response was silence, denial, or decades-late apologies that could never undo the damage. The lives shattered, the bodies poisoned, the minds broken. This is not conspiracy, it is history. Documented, declassified, undeniable. And while some claim those days are over, the truth is, when power operates in secrecy, anything is possible, because if governments have done it before, they can do it again, and we may never know until it's too late. Fetal cells stay in a mother's brain, Long after pregnancy ends, after the birth, the labor, or even a miscarriage, tiny pieces of the child remain inside the mother, not just in the womb, in her brain. This is a real biological phenomenon called microchimerism, where fetal cells cross the placenta during pregnancy and settle permanently in the mother's body, including her heart, lungs, and most hauntingly, her brain. These cells don't vanish. They don't fade with time. They weave themselves into the fabric of her biology, becoming part of her for life. A son's cells may embed in his mother's neurons. A daughter's genetic imprint may settle deep in her hippocampus, the area that processes memory and emotion. The science is still unfolding, but what we know already is staggering. The children we carry may physically shape how we think, feel, and remember long after they're born or lost. In mothers who miscarry or experience stillbirth, those cells remain too, a permanent trace of a child who never took a breath, quietly living on in the mother's body like a biological ghost. For mothers who lose children later in life, the bond is no longer just emotional, it's cellular. They carry the imprint of that child inside them, even as they grieve their absence. No one told them this. Doctors don't mention it. It's not part of parenting books or grief counseling. But it is real, and it is intimate in a way that defies logic. A reminder that motherhood is not just something you do, it's something you become, down to the cellular level. A child leaves, but never entirely. Water is filled with drugs and plastics. The glass of water on your table, the one you drink without thinking, might carry more than just H2O. Hidden inside are microscopic traces of things that were never meant to be there: prescription drugs, hormones, painkillers, antidepressants, and countless fragments of plastic, invisible to the naked eye. Our water is no longer just water. It's a chemical cocktail we didn't choose to swallow. Pharmaceuticals enter the water supply through human waste, discarded pills, and hospital runoff. Sewage treatment plants aren't designed to remove these complex compounds, so birth control hormones stay, antibiotics linger, anti-anxiety meds float downstream. They don't vanish, they accumulate, cycle after cycle, returning through taps, bottles, and food. Alongside the drugs are microplastics, tiny shards from broken down bottles, bags, and synthetic clothes. They're in rivers, lakes, oceans, and now inside us, found in bottled water, tap water, rainwater, even inside unborn babies. These particles carry toxic chemicals and can enter organs, disrupt hormones, and inflame cells. Yet we keep drinking, showering, cooking with it, because we can't see what we're swallowing. This isn't fear-mongering, it's science. It's silence that has gone on too long. The systems meant to protect us, our filters, our policies, our testing standards, are outdated, overwhelmed, and often blind to what modern pollution has become. And while we debate climate change and oil spills, we ignore the quiet poisoning of our most vital resource. We trust that clean water means safe water, but purity has become an illusion. What we drink every day may be eroding us from the inside, one invisible dose at a time. Most crimes never lead to justice. A robbery, a rape, a beating, a murder. Someone suffers, someone screams, someone vanishes. And more often than not, that's where the story ends. In the majority of crimes across the world, there is no arrest, no trial, no punishment. The pain remains, but justice never comes. It disappears into backlogs, cold cases, and overwhelmed systems. Victims are left with trauma. Perpetrators walk free. In some cities, only 1 in 10 serious crimes are ever solved. Rape cases are ignored or disbelieved. Sexual assault kits sit untested for years. Murders go cold because of underfunding or corruption. Theft and domestic abuse are written off as low priority. Crimes in poor or marginalized neighborhoods are often barely investigated, let alone prosecuted. If the victim is black, poor, transgender, undocumented, the chances of justice drop even further. Meanwhile, the innocent are sometimes jailed. Eyewitnesses are wrong, evidence is mishandled, plea deals are pushed on the vulnerable, and the real perpetrators remain free to harm again. For every courtroom drama that ends in truth, there are countless lives quietly shattered by injustice. People grow up believing that if something bad happens, the system will help. That truth will prevail. But the truth is, justice often depends on resources, race, influence, or luck. It's not blind, it's selective. And for millions of victims, the system meant to protect them becomes just another silence they have to survive. Crime may end in a moment, but the absence of justice lingers for a lifetime, hollow, heavy, and often invisible to those who've never had to beg for it. Secret prisons exist today. Somewhere in the world right now, a person is locked in a cell that doesn't officially exist. No trial, no lawyer, no phone call, just endless silence, concrete walls, and the gnawing knowledge that no one knows where they are. These are black sites, secret prisons operated by governments, intelligence agencies, and military forces, hidden from public view, justice, and international law. They go by many names or none at all. Their locations are buried in classified documents. Victims are abducted, blindfolded, and flown across borders, vanishing from the legal world into a place where human rights are suspended. There, interrogation turns to torture, sleep deprivation, waterboarding, electrocution, beatings, psychological abuse. No accountability, no oversight, no escape. Many of these detainees are never charged. Some are innocent. Some were taken due to mistaken identity or bad intelligence. Yet they remain forgotten, broken, invisible. Governments deny these sites exist, or admit them only when exposed by whistleblowers, who then face prison themselves. The public is told it's for national security. That secrecy keeps us safe, but at what cost? This is not a relic of war-torn regimes or failed states. Democracies have used them. Powerful nations fund them. Some are hosted in other countries to avoid domestic laws. It's a global network of shadows, stitched together by fear and silence. While we sleep comfortably in the belief that justice prevails, others are screaming into darkness with no one to hear them, not because they were proven guilty, but because someone, somewhere, decided their suffering would remain a secret. Social media can rig elections. In today's world, the most powerful political weapon isn't a ballot or a bullet. It's a post, a meme, a video that goes viral. Social media has the power to sway millions of minds in seconds, and it's being used not just to inform, but to manipulate. Behind your feed are algorithms designed to feed you content that confirms your biases, stirs your anger, and keeps you scrolling. But those same tools can be, and have been, used to influence elections. Political ads targeted with surgical precision. Fake news stories shared by bots faster than facts can catch up. Deepfake videos spreading lies about candidates. Troll farms pumping out propaganda in multiple languages. Entire voting groups are profiled, divided, and pushed to extremes, while others are drowned in misinformation so deep they no longer trust any truth at all. This isn't hypothetical. It's been documented. In past elections, both foreign governments and private firms like Cambridge Analytica exploited social media to target voters, using their fears, data, and habits against them. They didn't need to change your vote. They just needed to confuse you, discourage you, or push you a little further into your bubble. The result? People vote based on lies. Others stay home thinking their vote doesn't matter. Democracies are poisoned not by force, but by doubt, fed in tiny pieces, one click at a time. The most dangerous manipulation is the kind you don't notice. And when the battle for power is fought in your pocket, with content crafted just for you, the line between free choice and manufactured consent begins to vanish. Predatory loans ruin lives. They offer help when you're desperate. A quick approval, no credit check, instant cash. But behind the friendly ads and easy terms lies a trap. Predatory loans are designed not to support, but to ensnare. Payday loans, high-interest credit cards, shady lenders, these are weapons disguised as lifelines. And once you take the bait, escape becomes nearly impossible. It starts small, a few $100s to cover rent, a medical bill, groceries, but the interest is crushing, 300%, 500%, even more. By the time your next paycheck comes, the loan has doubled. You pay what you can, but it's never enough. Fees stack, payments roll over. Soon you're not borrowing to get ahead, you're borrowing to survive. Millions of people, many poor, disabled, elderly, or financially uneducated, fall into this cycle. Entire paychecks vanish to debt. Utilities get shut off. Cars get repossessed. Homes are lost. Parents skip meals so their kids can eat, while lenders rake in billions from the suffering. These loans are legal in many places, even protected by the system. Lobbyists fight regulation. Fine print hides the danger. Banks reject the vulnerable, and predatory lenders step in, not out of kindness, but hunger, because every missed payment is profit, every delay is power. This isn't bad budgeting, it's engineered despair, a system that feeds on instability, knowing people will do anything to keep the lights on, to feed their families, to stay afloat. Predatory loans don't just take money, they take dignity, peace, and hope, leaving people drowning in debt and blaming themselves for sinking. Cults recruit people online. They don't wear robes or hold candles, not at first. They look like self-help forums, spiritual coaches, lifestyle influencers, or tight-knit communities offering answers to life's chaos. But behind the friendly messages and perfectly curated feeds, cults are lurking, recruiting, grooming, and brainwashing from behind a screen. The digital age hasn't killed cults. It's made them stronger, faster, and harder to see. They prey on loneliness, confusion, heartbreak, and identity crises. They find people searching for purpose or healing. A comment here, a DM there. You're special. Only we understand you. The world is lying to you. What starts as guidance quickly turns into control. Isolation begins. They don't get you. Only we do. Followers are encouraged to cut off friends, quit jobs, move, give money, surrender freedom, stop asking questions. Online, cults don't need compounds or remote deserts. They build echo chambers, closed groups, encrypted chats, live stream sermons. They flood the internet with love bombing and memes, reinforcing belief, shaming doubt. They wear the language of wellness, truth-seeking, or political awakening. Some wrap themselves in religion, others in conspiracy. What they all want is the same: control. Victims don't realize they're in a cult until it's too late. By then, their identity has been rewritten. Leaving means losing everything: community, safety, self-worth. The trauma runs deep, the shame even deeper. And while society mocks cults as fringe, they are thriving in silence, algorithm-fed, digitally armed, and waiting for the next lonely scroll. Because sometimes all it takes is a bad day and the right message to pull someone into a world they may never escape. Tech minerals come from suffering. The sleek phone in your hand, the laptop on your desk, the electric car you admire, they all run on minerals pulled from deep within the earth. But the truth buried beneath the surface is blood-stained. Minerals like cobalt, lithium, coltan, and rare earth elements power our technology, but they often come from places built on human suffering. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, children as young as 7 dig for cobalt with their bare hands. No helmets, no safety gear, just hours in dark, collapsing tunnels filled with dust that scars their lungs. Many are beaten if they rest. Some never make it out alive. They work for pennies a day, supplying raw materials to companies worth billions. The tech revolution is written in their wounds. In South America and Asia, lithium extraction poisons rivers and drains fragile water supplies. devastating indigenous communities who depend on the land. People protest and they're ignored or silenced. Entire ecosystems are sacrificed so the world can chase a greener, faster, more connected future. Corporations know, governments know, but the demand is too high and the profits too massive. Supply chains stretch across continents, obscuring the violence at the start of it all. The suffering becomes distant, abstract, easier to forget when you're scrolling, clicking, upgrading. We call it innovation, progress, clean energy, but the cost is paid in lives bent by labor, land turned to ruin, and voices that cry out from minds no one wants to see. The world is plugged in, but it runs on pain we pretend isn't there. Lobbyists help rewrite laws. The laws that shape your life, what you pay, what you eat, how you're policed, what your rights are, aren't always written by lawmakers. Many are quietly drafted, edited, and influenced by lobbyists, corporate representatives, industry insiders, and special interest groups who operate behind the scenes. They don't hold office, but they hold power. They walk the halls of Congress, sit in closed-door meetings, and hand politicians ready-made legislation that benefits the few at the cost of the many. This isn't illegal, it's routine. A chemical company wants fewer regulations, their lobbyists craft the wording. A healthcare giant wants to block cheaper medicine, their lobbyists write the amendment. A tech firm wants tax breaks, they send the bill language, line by line. Lawmakers overwhelmed by volume or lacking expertise often rely on these experts to fill in the blanks, and with campaign donations attached, the incentive to listen is overwhelming. The result? Laws that protect profits over people, policies that allow pollution, price hikes, monopolies, wage theft, surveillance. Meanwhile, the public is told the system is democratic, fair, transparent. But behind the curtain, it's bought and steered like a market. Ordinary citizens get 3 minutes at a town hall. Lobbyists get hours with staffers, dinners with senators, invitations to draft bills. They don't just influence policy, they become the policy. And every time a law is passed that leaves you confused, frustrated, or betrayed, know this: somewhere, someone paid for that outcome, and a lobbyist was the one who made sure it passed. Tons of food is wasted as people starve. Every single day, mountains of perfectly edible food are thrown away, trucked to landfills, left to rot in dumpsters, or discarded because it doesn't look pretty enough for store shelves. Supermarkets toss out bruised fruit, restaurants dump untouched plates, farms bury ugly crops, and households scrape good leftovers into the trash. Globally, we waste over 1.3 billion tons of food every year, enough to feed every hungry person on Earth many times over. At the same time, nearly 800 million people go to bed hungry. Children's stomachs swell with malnutrition, while refrigerated trucks full of surplus food back up to waste sites. Families dig through garbage piles, while hotel buffets toss entire trays untouched. Starvation is not about lack. It's about inequality, greed, and a system that values profit over people. Food expires not because it's bad, but because of arbitrary dates. Excess is dumped because it's cheaper than redistribution. Farmers burn crops they can't sell. Supermarkets would rather protect brand image than donate what they call imperfect. The cruelty lies not in what we lack, but in what we throw away while others beg for crumbs. In war zones, drought-stricken countries, and impoverished neighborhoods, people die holding empty bowls while grocery chains slash prices on overstocked aisles, then toss what doesn't sell. It's a betrayal of abundance, a world where food is power, and those who need it most are denied not by scarcity, but by design. This isn't a food crisis, it's a moral one, because the world has enough to feed everyone, we just choose not to. Ocean dead zones are spreading beneath the surface of our oceans, lie places where life no longer breathes. Dead zones, vast areas where oxygen has vanished and nothing can survive. Fish flee or suffocate. Coral reefs bleach and crumble. Crabs, mollusks, plankton, all the tiny threads that hold marine ecosystems together, die silently in the deep. And these dead zones aren't rare. They're multiplying fast, caused mostly by pollution, fertilizer runoff, sewage, oil, industrial waste. These zones form when algae blooms explode, then die and rot, consuming all the oxygen in the water. Without oxygen, the ocean suffocates. It doesn't smell, it doesn't scream, it just dies. The Gulf of Mexico holds one of the largest dead zones in the world, sometimes the size of New Jersey. But they now appear off the coasts of Africa, China, India, and Europe. Even the deep sea isn't safe. Dead zones destroy fisheries and crush the livelihoods of coastal communities. Entire food chains collapse. Fish nurseries vanish. The ocean becomes a blue desert, quiet, empty, useless, and climate change is making it worse. Warmer waters hold less oxygen. Melting ice disrupts circulation. The deeper the planet heats, the more the oceans gasp for air. We grew up believing the sea was limitless, that no matter what we dumped into it, it would bounce back. But now, parts of it can no longer recover. And we don't notice because dead zones are invisible. They don't make headlines. They don't wash up on shore. But they are growing, spreading like a quiet plague, one that tells us the planet is choking and we're the ones holding the pillow. Old people are abused. Often they survive wars, raise families, build entire generations, and yet in their final years, many elderly people live in fear, silence, and suffering. Behind closed doors of nursing homes, hospitals, and even family houses, countless seniors are neglected, exploited, and abused every single day, and most of the world turns away, assuming they're simply too old to notice or fight back. Some are left alone for hours or days, lying in soiled sheets, crying out to no one. Others are over-medicated into silence, strapped down, ignored. There are caregivers who mock them, steal from them, force them to sign away their homes and pensions. Physical abuse leaves bruises. Psychological abuse leaves deep, invisible wounds. Financial abuse leaves them penniless, confused, and helpless. The ones hurting them are often their own children, partners, nurses, people they once trusted with their lives. And when they speak up, they're dismissed. She's senile. He's confused. Their stories are questioned. Their pain minimized. The system built to protect them barely responds. Investigations are rare. Justice is rarer. Elder abuse is not just a crime. It's a betrayal of the people who held our hands when we were small, who taught, sacrificed, endured. They are not burdens. They are human beings. And yet in the quiet corners of our society, they are isolated, abandoned, and broken down until nothing is left but a body in a room waiting to be remembered. It's not just neglect. It's cruelty, and it happens everywhere. Sometimes in the very homes meant to protect them, sometimes just down the hall. Babies are killed for being girls. In parts of the world, right now, newborn girls are killed simply because of their gender, not because they are sick, not because they are unwanted by fate, but because they are not boys. These tiny, breathing lives are suffocated, drowned, starved, poisoned, or abandoned in garbage bins, toilets, or fields. Their first and last truth, being born female was a fatal mistake. This horror is not confined to a single country or culture. It happens in South Asia, parts of Africa, the Middle East, even in diasporas across the globe, in places where sons are prized, seen as heirs, wage earners, bearers of family name. Daughters are viewed as burdens, too expensive to marry off, too weak to carry legacy, too less to deserve life. Some families, under cultural pressure or poverty, make the decision silently, generation after generation. Others are coerced by in-laws, tradition, or superstition. In modern cities, it happens through sex-selective abortion. Girls are erased before birth. In rural areas, it happens by hand. Helpless infants killed in the quiet of night. No justice, no mourning, no name on a headstone, and the world barely speaks of it. These deaths aren't counted. They aren't protested. They vanish into silence. Yet the impact ripples across society. Millions of missing girls, distorted gender ratios, entire generations of boys with no partners, rising trafficking, and violence born from imbalance. This is not culture. This is not tradition. This is gendercide, cold, targeted, systematic. And the smallest victims are punished not for what they did, but for who they are. Girls, air kills more people than car crashes. Every breath you take may be slowly poisoning you. The air around us, once a symbol of life, is now laced with deadly particles so small we can't see them, smell them, or escape them. Microscopic killers like PM2.5 and nitrogen dioxide are everywhere, in cities, rural towns, indoors, and even the air we think is clean. And the terrifying truth? Air pollution kills over 7 million people every year. That's more than car crashes, drug overdoses, or even wars. This isn't about some far-off factory or smog-filled skyline. It's the exhaust from cars, the smoke from wildfires, the fumes from power plants, the toxins from cheap manufacturing. It enters your lungs with every inhale, slips into your bloodstream, and travels to your heart, your brain, your unborn child. It causes strokes, heart attacks, cancer, asthma, birth defects, and dementia. Babies are born underweight. Children grow up wheezing. The elderly die before their time. And it doesn't affect everyone equally. Poor neighborhoods, communities of color, and developing countries bear the worst of it. They live closer to highways, factories, and waste sites. They breathe in death while the rest of the world looks away. Governments downplay the danger. Corporations stall regulations. And we keep living under a sky that looks blue but carries invisible poison. We clean our water, we wash our food, but we can't stop breathing. And every day we inhale the consequence of a world built for speed, convenience, and profit, at the cost of the air that should have kept us alive. Some people don't legally exist. All over the world, millions of people walk through life without papers, without rights, without names that governments recognize. They are stateless. No birth certificate, no ID, no nationality. To the system, they don't exist, but they breathe, they suffer, they hope, and they are trapped in an invisible cage, born and buried without ever being seen. Statelessness can happen in many ways. Children born in war zones or refugee camps where records are lost or never made. Ethnic minorities stripped of citizenship by law or politics. Babies born to migrant workers, denied registration because of their parents' status, victims of genocide whose entire communities were erased, not just physically, but legally. Some lose their identity when countries collapse, borders change, or discrimination becomes policy. Without legal existence, you can't go to school, can't get a job, can't own property, can't vote, can't marry, can't see a doctor. You are locked out of society, even as you stand in its streets. You are vulnerable to abuse, trafficking, detention, because you have no rights to protect you. And if someone hurts you, no one comes. Stateless people live in limbo, pass between governments that refuse to claim them. Many spend their entire lives trying to prove they belong somewhere, only to die with nothing more than a memory in someone else's story. No country, no flag, no voice. Their crime? Being born in the wrong place, to the wrong people, under the wrong circumstances. In a world obsessed with documentation, the greatest cruelty is denying someone their very existence. Human trafficking is a 100-year industry. Behind closed doors, across borders, and through digital screens, human lives are bought, sold, and traded like property. Human trafficking is not rare. It is not underground. It is a 150 billion global industry, one of the largest criminal economies in the world, built on stolen freedom, silenced pain, and invisible chains, and it happens everywhere, right now. Women forced into prostitution, children sold as domestic slaves, men tricked into fake jobs only to be locked in factories, fields, or fishing boats for years without pay. Some are beaten, others are starved, all are stripped of choice. Traffickers use fear, threats, and psychological torture to keep them compliant. Their documents are stolen, their families threatened, their hope crushed until escape feels impossible. They clean hotel rooms you'll sleep in. They build homes you'll live in. They serve food, make clothes, mine the materials in your phone. Their suffering is buried deep inside supply chains and hidden in the margins of our modern world. We walk past them daily, unaware. Some don't even realize they're victims, only that they are trapped in a life that never belonged to them. Traffickers thrive on silence, on poverty, on racism, war, gender inequality, and broken systems, and society often blames the victim. Why didn't they leave? But when your survival depends on obedience, when the cage is invisible, and when no one believes you, freedom is not just far away. It's unimaginable. Human trafficking is not a crime of the past. It's a booming business, and it grows because we look away, because we forget that freedom is still a privilege, not a guarantee. Cigarettes kill more than drugs. They're sold at every corner store. Glossy packs, slick ads, social acceptance. Cigarettes are legal, common, and often dismissed as just a bad habit. But behind the smoke is a brutal truth. Cigarettes kill more people every year than alcohol, car crashes, illegal drugs, HIV, and murders combined. They are the deadliest consumer product in human history, and we still let them be sold like candy. Over 8 million people die each year from tobacco-related diseases, lung cancer, heart attacks, stroke, emphysema. Even those who never smoked inhale secondhand smoke and suffer the same fate. Children develop asthma, pregnant women lose babies, and long after someone quits, the damage lingers, scarring the lungs, weakening the heart, stealing years of life one breath at a time. Cigarettes don't kill quickly. They kill slowly, painfully. A smoker may not feel it at first, but then comes the morning cough, the shortness of breath, the shadow on the X-ray, the oxygen tank, the goodbye. It's a weapon sold with a smile, marketed to the young, the stressed, the poor, and the addicted. Tobacco companies knew the risks for decades. They lied. They paid scientists to confuse the public. They targeted children with flavored products. And even today, they profit from the very addiction that kills their customers. We rage at opioid dealers. We arrest drug users. But cigarettes, the deadliest drug of all, sit on shelves, protected by law and normalized by culture. They don't just burn lungs. They burn lives, quietly, legally, endlessly. Antibiotics are becoming useless. The medicine that once saved millions, antibiotics, is beginning to fail. Infections that were once easily treatable are growing stronger, more resistant, more deadly. We are entering a world where a simple cut could kill you, where pneumonia, urinary tract infections, or a scraped knee could spiral into unstoppable death. Not because we lack medicine, but because the medicine no longer works. This is antibiotic resistance. Bacteria are evolving faster than we can fight them. Decades of overprescribing, using antibiotics in animal feed, and misuse by patients have created superbugs, germs that laugh in the face of our strongest drugs. Each year, over 1.2 million people die from antibiotic-resistant infections. That number is rising fast, and soon, modern medicine as we know it could begin to collapse. Surgeries will become riskier. Cancer treatments, organ transplants, even childbirth, procedures that depend on effective antibiotics could become too dangerous. We're rolling back into a time before antibiotics existed, a pre-penicillin era, only this time we should have known better. Pharmaceutical companies have stopped making new antibiotics. There's no money in it. The market rewards drugs people take for life, not ones that cure in days. So we're left with aging drugs, failing tools, and no replacements in sight. This crisis isn't loud. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with explosions or headlines. It spreads quietly, one hospital room at a time. And by the time we fully realize what we've lost, we may be helpless to get it back. Because once antibiotics stop working, death becomes simple again, and every infection becomes a coin flip. Climate refugees are rising fast. All over the world, people are fleeing, not from war, but from weather. Rising seas swallow homes, rivers flood entire cities, drought turns farmland to dust, wildfires erase whole towns in a single night. These aren't natural disasters anymore. They're man-made, climate-fueled disasters, and the people they displace are now known by a chilling name: climate refugees. Right now, over 20 million people are forced to leave their homes each year because of climate-related disasters. That number is climbing fast. From the Pacific Islands to coastal Bangladesh, from the Horn of Africa to southern U.S. states, people are running, not to seek opportunity, but to survive. Their homes are too hot, too dry, too flooded, or simply gone. Their farms no longer grow food. Their wells are empty. Their air is toxic. The place they've lived for generations has become unlivable. And yet, there is no legal definition for climate refugee, no international protection, no path to asylum. They are left in limbo, treated as migrants instead of victims of a crisis they didn't cause. The world watches, debates, delays, while entire communities are uprooted, erased, and left to wander. These are not future problems. They are now. And every degree the planet warms, more lives are lost. Not in headlines, but in silence. Children are growing up without homes. Elders are dying in tents. Borders are closing while the planet itself is collapsing. We are watching the rise of a new kind of refugee, driven not by politics or war, but by a dying earth. And they are only the beginning. Democracies support foreign coups. Democracies built on the values of freedom, elections, and human rights are supposed to stand against tyranny, but history and the present tell a darker story. Behind closed doors and diplomatic smiles, powerful democratic nations have funded, planned, and supported the violent overthrow of foreign governments, not to protect freedom, but to protect interests, economic ones, strategic ones, ones that serve power, not people. From Latin America to the Middle East, Asia to Africa, elected leaders have been removed by military force with the quiet backing of foreign democracies. When a president nationalizes oil, resists foreign banks, or challenges corporate control, they're suddenly branded a threat. Intelligence agencies step in. Money flows to rebels. Arms are shipped. Propaganda spreads. And soon there's a coup, a new regime, a dictatorship draped in stability. In 1953, the US and UK overthrew Iran's elected leader to keep oil under Western control. In 1973, Chile's democracy was crushed with American support, replaced by a brutal military regime. These aren't isolated incidents. They are a pattern, one that repeats, reshapes, and hides behind noble words like freedom and order. The people in those countries pay the price. Torture replaces debate. Fear replaces voting. Generations grow up under regimes installed, not chosen, and the democracies that claim to spread liberty quietly wash their hands, pretending they had nothing to do with the blood in the streets. Democracy, it turns out, isn't always exported. Sometimes it's assassinated by the very nations that claim to defend it. Camps for minorities still exist. We like to believe that concentration camps are a thing of the past, dark pages in history books, never to be repeated. But right now, in the 21st century, minorities are still being detained in camps, stripped of rights, identities, and dignity, all under the guise of security, re-education, or control. These are not ruins of old wars. They are active, functioning systems of oppression, built in silence, operated with purpose. In places like Xinjiang, China, over 1 million Uyghur Muslims have been forced into massive detention centers. Families are separated. Children are placed in state-run orphanages. Men and women are subjected to forced labor, political indoctrination, religious erasure, and in some reports, sterilization and torture. Their culture is being dismantled from the inside out, and the world's response has been painfully slow, muted by trade deals and political fear. And it's not just one country. Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, Tigrayans in Ethiopia, and ethnic minorities in North Korea and Eritrea have also faced mass detention, forced relocation, and abuse, often in isolated camps far from international eyes. These camps are not called what they are. They're labeled rehabilitation centers, shelters, or security zones. But inside the fences are lives broken, erased, and reprogrammed. These are not isolated tragedies. They are systems, engineered, funded, hidden. While the rest of the world scrolls and shops, human beings are being warehoused like threats, punished for who they are, not what they've done. The architecture of genocide never begins with bullets. It begins with walls, silence, and the belief that some lives are easier to cage than protect. And it's still happening right now. You're tracked online constantly. Every time you scroll, tap, search, or pause, even for a second, someone is watching. Not one person, but hundreds of systems, scripts, and algorithms silently record your every move online. They track what you read, what you buy, what you almost bought, how long you looked at an image, what words you hover over, and even how fast you scroll. You are being watched, not with a camera, but with data, and it never, ever stops. This surveillance isn't limited to social media or shopping sites. Your favorite apps, your fitness tracker, your GPS, your smart TV, all feed data into a vast, invisible web, and that data is bought, sold, and analyzed to predict who you are, what you want, and what you'll do next. They don't just track behavior, they shape it. They show you the content they want you to see, the ads they want you to click, the stories they want you to believe. You might think you're in control. You're not. Even private browsing isn't truly private. Even turning off app permissions doesn't stop the tracking completely. Companies find workarounds. They fingerprint your device, match your behavior patterns, and connect data across platforms, even when you're logged out. The real danger isn't just that your privacy is gone, it's that you were never asked. This isn't surveillance with your consent. It's extraction disguised as convenience. You were turned into a product, packaged, labeled, and sold. While you thought you were just checking the weather or scrolling through news, your life is now data, and your data is now currency. But the profit, that belongs to everyone but you. Gender violence is everywhere. It happens in every country, every city, every neighborhood, in bedrooms, classrooms, workplaces, refugee camps, and sidewalks. Gender-based violence is not rare. It is not cultural or isolated or someone else's problem. It is everywhere, a silent epidemic wrapped in shame, denial, and fear. 1 in 3 women worldwide will face physical or sexual violence in her lifetime, and that's just what's reported. It starts young. Girls are harassed before they can understand what it means, catcalled in school uniforms, touched without permission, taught to shrink, stay quiet, stay safe. In homes, violence hides behind closed doors, slaps justified as discipline, bruises hidden under sleeves, rape dismissed as marital duty. In war zones, women's bodies become battlefields. In workplaces, harassment is repackaged as flirtation. And speaking up comes at the cost of a job, a reputation, a future. LGBTQ+ individuals face brutal attacks for simply existing. Trans women are murdered at alarming rates. Victims are blamed, shamed, silenced. Police don't listen. Courts don't act. Families don't believe. Survivors carry the weight of their trauma, and the burden of being disbelieved. And the world keeps moving. News cycles change, hashtags fade, but the violence doesn't. It continues in shadows, in whispers, in locked rooms, and gas-lit hearts. We teach girls how not to get hurt instead of teaching boys not to hurt. We raise generations in systems that protect abusers and punish survivors. Gender violence isn't just a women's issue, it's a human one. It's not somewhere else. It's next door. It's now. It's us. And ignoring it doesn't make it disappear. It makes it stronger. Bottled water is just tap water. You see it lined up in fridges, wrapped in sleek labels, pure, pristine, promised to be better than what flows from your sink. Bottled water is sold as nature's finest, drawn from untouched springs or secret alpine sources. But here's the truth they don't advertise. A large share of bottled water is just tap water, filtered, repackaged, and sold back to you at up to 2,000 times the price. In many countries, including the US, brands like Aquafina and Dasani openly admit their water comes from public sources, municipal taps, the same system that fills your kitchen faucet. They run it through purification or add minerals for taste, then bottle it, brand it, and convince you it's somehow cleaner, healthier, or safer. But often, it's no better, and sometimes even worse. What's more disturbing is where all this profit goes. While corporations extract millions of gallons for pennies, nearby communities face drought, water bans, or shortages. In some cases, people living near bottling plants can't even trust their own water, while truckloads are shipped away for commercial gain. And when regulations fail, bottled water has been found to contain microplastics, contaminants, or fewer quality checks than tap water. It's a billion-dollar illusion built on fear and marketing. They sell you safety while draining a public resource. They charge you for trust you already had, and they wrap it all in plastic, a material that chokes oceans, lasts for centuries, and often ends right back in the water we drink. You're not buying purity, you're buying a lie, bottled, branded, and sold by the sip. Child porn still spreads online. Imagine a world where innocence is stolen with a click, shared like data, consumed without consent. That world exists, and it's online. Despite global laws, international efforts, and endless campaigns, child sexual abuse material, CSAM, continues to spread across the internet. Hidden in encrypted chats, shared in private forums, embedded in coded links, this isn't a remote nightmare. It's happening right now, right under our digital noses. The platforms we rely on, chats, social apps, private servers, can be turned into pipelines for abuse. Uploaders use VPNs, encrypted messaging, private invitations to avoid detection. They share images, videos, and live streams, feeding a hidden audience that traffics in exploitation. Some content is created through manipulation, coercion, or trafficking. Other times, it's stolen from unsuspecting individuals and weaponized against them. The users? They include everyone, from organized criminals to typical users lulled into group chats. This isn't an underworld. It's everywhere, hidden in plain sight. And for every convicted predator, dozens more slip through the cracks. Victims suffer in silence. Their images are immortal, circulating indefinitely. Even if they escape the initial abuse, the evidence follows them forever. Each file is a living crime scene, a never-ending violation. Major tech companies deploy filters and AI detection, but it's a game of whack-a-mole. As soon as one network is shut down, another pops up. Encryption and the dark web offer immunity, while some platforms lack the resources or will to monitor the corners of their apps. Reporting tools are often overwhelmed or ineffective, and when criminals are caught, punishments vary. Some get light sentences, others vanish into anonymity. This isn't a technical problem, it's a moral one. It demands more than software. It demands confrontation with the darkest side of human nature. It requires vigilance, honesty, and action, because as long as even one image circulates, a child's traumatic experiences are being traded like currency, and innocence remains for sale. The U.S. jails more people than any other nation. The United States calls itself the land of the free, yet behind barbed wire and steel doors, more than 2 million people sit in prisons and jails, more than in any other country on earth, more than China, more than Russia, more than dictatorships the U.S. criticizes. America holds 5% of the world's population, but nearly 25% of its prisoners. The numbers are not just high, they are staggering. This didn't happen by accident. It is the result of decades of policies that criminalize poverty, addiction, and race, harsh sentencing laws, mandatory minimums, the so-called war on drugs. Entire communities, mostly black and brown, have been targeted, arrested, and locked away for non-violent offenses, for petty theft, for simply being unable to pay fines. Meanwhile, wealth buys freedom. The rich walk free while the poor disappear into a system that profits from their captivity. Private prisons, cash bail, prison labor. These are not just punishments, they are industries. Prisons make money off inmates, from phone calls, food, labor, and contracts. The longer you're in, the more someone earns. And rehabilitation? Rare. Education? Minimal. The system isn't designed to heal. It's designed to keep people cycling back. Children are tried as adults. Mentally ill people are jailed instead of treated. Mothers give birth in handcuffs. Fathers miss decades of their children's lives. Families are broken. Futures erased. And the world watches as the freest nation builds more prisons, not fewer. This is not justice. It is mass incarceration, a machine that feeds on inequality and calls it order. Rape kits often go untested. When a survivor of sexual assault finds the strength to come forward, they endure one of the most invasive procedures imaginable, a forensic rape kit. It can take 4 to 6 hours. Swabs, samples, photos, documentation. Every inch of their pain is collected as evidence, with one hope: justice. But across police departments, hospitals, and crime labs, hundreds of thousands of these kits sit untested, forgotten on shelves, gathering dust instead of delivering answers. Some are lost, some are mislabeled, some are simply ignored due to budget cuts, backlog, or indifference. Years pass, the evidence degrades, the trail goes cold, and while those kits are left untouched, rapists walk free, often assaulting again. The system doesn't just fail the victim, it protects the predator. In the U.S. alone, some cities have discovered thousands of untested kits hidden in storage, each one a story, a person, a cry for justice left unanswered. Some survivors call repeatedly, asking for updates, only to be told nothing has been done. Some never even know their kit was never tested. And it's not just about processing time, it's about priorities. Assault survivors are too often disbelieved, their cases deemed low priority. If they come from poor neighborhoods, are women of color, or have a history of mental illness or drug use, their evidence is even more likely to be dismissed. A rape kit is a symbol of bravery. To let it sit untested is to silence that courage, to erase the suffering, and to say, without words, you don't matter. But they do. Every kit, every survivor, every stolen voice. The rich-poor gap is huge. In a world more connected than ever, the divide between the rich and the poor has never been wider or more brutal. Just 1% of the global population owns nearly half of all wealth, while billions struggle to survive on less than a few dollars a day. The ultra-rich fly private across continents, while millions walk for clean water. Some build luxury bunkers for doomsday. Others sleep in slums, streets, and shelters if they're lucky. This is not just a gap, it's a chasm, a system built to rise for the few while holding the rest in place. Wages have stagnated for decades, but CEO salaries have exploded. The cost of living soars, but the wealth of billionaires grows by the second. A single tech tycoon can make more in a day than most people will earn in a lifetime. Meanwhile, families ration medicine, parents skip meals, children drop out of school to work. And it's not just about money, it's about access. The wealthy get the best doctors, the best education, the safest neighborhoods, the cleanest air. The poor get pollution, underfunded schools, and hospital wait lists that end in graves. Even justice has a price tag, one the poor can't afford. We're told to work harder, save more, pull ourselves up, but the ladder has been pulled up by those already at the top. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was built, to protect wealth, not share it. This isn't just inequality, it's quiet violence, a global rigging of the game that leaves millions stuck at the bottom, while a few rise high enough to forget the ground ever existed. History is erased or denied. In textbooks, monuments, museums, and headlines, history is shaped not by truth, but by power. Entire genocides are erased from national memory. Colonization is reframed as discovery. Atrocities are softened, renamed, or removed altogether. And what should be remembered is rewritten, distorted, or denied outright. History doesn't just disappear, it's buried, on purpose. Governments censor school curriculums, removing any mention of crimes they committed, slavery, massacres, invasions, political purges. Whole generations grow up never learning about the suffering caused in their name. Children are taught to feel pride, not question. Victims become statistics, footnotes, or vanish completely. Their stories are silenced before they can be told. In some countries, even speaking the truth can be a crime. Activists are arrested for mentioning past genocides. Journalists disappear for exposing inconvenient facts. Museums are pressured to sanitize exhibits. Books are banned. Graves go unmarked. Survivors are dismissed as liars. What happened is not debated. It's erased. And it works. People forget. Myths replace memory. The powerful escape responsibility while the oppressed are told to move on. But history that is denied doesn't die. It festers, passed down through trauma, whispers, scars. And the danger is this: when truth is hidden, it is repeated. To erase history is to erase accountability. To deny it is to deny justice. And while nations wave flags over their rewritten past, the truth lies buried beneath their feet, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be believed, because without truth, there is no healing, only silence, only shadows. Genocides still happen. We tell ourselves genocide is history. Auschwitz, Rwanda, Cambodia, lessons learned, never again. But never again keeps happening. Right now, in this very moment, entire ethnic and religious groups are being erased, starved, imprisoned, raped, slaughtered, not by rogue actors, but often by governments, soldiers, and neighbors. And the world watches, sometimes in denial, sometimes in silence, sometimes with full knowledge and no action. In Xinjiang, over 1 million Uyghur Muslims have been detained in re-education camps, tortured, brainwashed, sterilized, stripped of language, faith, identity. In Myanmar, Rohingya villages have been burned to ash, their people gunned down, women gang raped, survivors pushed into stateless exile. In Sudan, Darfur still bleeds. In Ethiopia, Tigrayan civilians are massacred. Genocide is not just murder, it is the destruction of a people's very existence. These acts are often hidden behind euphemisms, counterterrorism, civil conflict, security operations. But behind those words are mass graves, child corpses, families erased from history. Victims aren't just killed, they are dehumanized, called pests, threats, animals, because no one commits genocide against a people they still see as human. And still, governments stall. The UN drafts statements. Leaders express concern, but rarely is there intervention. Rarely is there justice. Why? Because the victims often live in regions deemed geopolitically inconvenient or economically unimportant. Genocide is not just an ancient horror, it's a current event. And the scariest truth, it doesn't require the world to support it, only to ignore it, because genocide thrives not only in hatred, but in silence. And silence is what we keep giving. Some die, and no one finds them for months. In crowded cities, towering apartment buildings, and quiet suburban homes, people are dying alone, and no one notices. Not for days, not for weeks, sometimes not for months. Their bodies lie in beds, slumped in chairs, or collapsed on floors, slowly decomposing while the world outside moves on, unaware. The smell eventually alerts neighbors. A welfare check is called. Then, finally, someone opens the door. But by then, it's too late. The person is no longer a person, just remains, surrounded by silence. This isn't rare. It's common, especially among the elderly, the disabled, the mentally ill, or the deeply isolated. People who once had lives, conversations, routines. People who mattered. Somewhere along the way, they vanished. From social circles, from family ties, from society's notice. They stopped answering the phone, stopped going outside, and no one checked. Mail piles up, rent goes unpaid, but no alarm sounds. Because in a disconnected world, absence doesn't always trigger concern. For some, there's no one to notice, no one to miss them. They are mourned only when a landlord complains or a neighbor catches the scent of decay. Their deaths reveal something terrifying, that a person can disappear in the middle of a city and the world won't flinch. That in the age of constant connection, people still die in absolute isolation, not by violence, not by disaster, but by being forgotten. They lived alone, they died alone, and their final breath was taken in a room full of silence, with no one to say goodbye, no hand to hold, no one even looking for them. One illness can cause bankruptcy. In a world of advanced medicine and billion-dollar healthcare industries, a brutal truth remains. One illness, just one, can destroy everything. A car accident, a cancer diagnosis, a surgery you didn't expect. In many countries, especially the United States, getting sick doesn't just threaten your health. It threatens your home, your savings, your future. You don't have to be poor to go bankrupt. You just have to be unlucky. Even with insurance, the bills pile up. Co-pays, deductibles, out-of-network charges, prescriptions, follow-ups, time off work. The numbers grow faster than you can count. One emergency room visit can cost more than a family car. A round of chemotherapy can rival a mortgage. And if you miss a payment, debt collectors come. Your credit collapses. Some people lose their homes. Others start GoFundMe pages just to survive. This is not rare. Medical debt is the #1 cause of personal bankruptcy in the U.S. Millions of people are forced to choose between medicine and food, surgery and rent. Parents skip their own treatments so their kids can eat. Elderly patients split pills in half. Young adults delay care, praying the pain goes away. And what's worse, many who go bankrupt were doing everything right, working, insured, responsible, until illness struck, until the system showed them it was never built to protect them, only to profit from them. Sickness is human, but turning illness into a financial death sentence is not. It's a system that punishes people for needing help, a world where survival has a price tag and only the lucky can afford to heal. Apps are built to keep you addicted. The apps on your phone aren't just tools, they're traps, carefully engineered to keep you scrolling, tapping, watching, and checking. Every ping, vibration, and red notification bubble is designed to hijack your brain's reward system. These aren't accidents. They're decisions made by teams of behavioral psychologists, designers, and data analysts whose job is not to serve you, but to hold you hostage. They study how long your eyes stay on a post, when you're most likely to feel lonely, when you'll click out of boredom or fear of missing out. Then they hit you with just the right content. The next video autoplays. The like count updates. The messages are delayed just enough to make you wait, and then rush back for more. It's not about what you need, it's about how long they can keep you hooked. Your attention is the product. Every second you stay inside the app makes someone else money, and so they build features that mimic slot machines, endless feeds, randomized rewards, unpredictable likes, all designed to keep your dopamine firing. You may think you're in control, you're not. You're being studied, nudged, rewired. Children grow up glued to screens before they know how to read. Adults check their phones over 100 times a day. Relationships suffer, sleep vanishes, anxiety soars. But the apps keep smiling, telling you it's connection, it's fun, it's harmless. But it's not harmless. It's addiction by design. And while we chase notifications for meaning, the companies behind the screen chase one thing: your time, not to enrich your life, but to own it. More people are enslaved today than ever. We think of slavery as a scar from the past, chains, auctions, plantations, but right now, in this modern, digital, global world, more people live in slavery than at any point in human history. Over 50 million men, women, and children are trapped in forced labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, and debt bondage. Their chains aren't always visible, but they're just as real. They clean hotel rooms they can't leave, stitch clothes for brands they'll never wear, work in mines, on fishing boats, in factories, beaten if they rest, raped if they resist, and silenced if they speak. Many are tricked by false job offers, sold by traffickers, or born into slavery with no way out. Some are hidden in plain sight, servants behind closed doors, children forced to beg in the streets, or victims locked away in suburban homes. It happens in war zones, refugee camps, rural villages, and rich cities alike, in global supply chains and local businesses, from cocoa fields in West Africa to nail salons in major Western cities. Slavery is not gone, it's evolved. It hides behind legal systems, cultural norms, and profit margins. It thrives on poverty, discrimination, and silence. Most terrifying of all, it's profitable. The modern slavery industry generates over $150 billion a year. The world keeps consuming coffee, clothing, electronics, while never asking who paid the true cost. This isn't history, it's now. The enslaved don't need our pity, they need our outrage. Because freedom in this world is still not a right, it's a privilege, one that millions are still waiting to taste. Civilians are test subjects in war. In modern warfare, civilians aren't just collateral damage, they're proving grounds. Cities become laboratories, homes become targets. Men, women, and children are used to test new weapons, tactics, and technologies under the cover of conflict. Drones, surveillance systems, facial recognition, AI-guided missiles, and sound weapons. Many are unleashed first, not on enemy soldiers, but on ordinary people just trying to survive. Governments and arms manufacturers watch closely, not to protect but to gather data. How does a crowd react to a sonic blast? How well does facial recognition work in smoke and rubble? What's the kill radius of a new drone strike? The battlefield isn't just land, it's living bodies, brown bodies, poor bodies, bodies deemed expendable. In Gaza, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Ukraine, civilian neighborhoods are flattened under precision strikes that double as product demos. Weapons used in war zones are later marketed as combat tested, a badge of honor for companies selling to the next buyer. Each civilian death becomes a line in a spreadsheet, each ruined street a lesson in efficiency. And the victims? They have no say, no protection, no warning. Children grow up with PTSD before they can speak in full sentences. Parents bury their kids under rubble one moment and flee to refugee camps the next. They are the unwilling test subjects in a game they never asked to be part of. This isn't war. It's experimentation with blood, and the world lets it happen, as long as the right people profit and the wrong ones are too powerless to stop it. Governments try to control minds. It sounds like science fiction. Governments secretly experimenting on people to bend their thoughts, break their will, erase identity, and implant control. But it happened, not in dystopian novels, but in real laboratories, hospitals, and prison cells. The most infamous, Project MKUltra, a CIA program that ran for over 20 years with one terrifying goal: to control the human mind. The US government, terrified of losing the Cold War, began testing hypnosis, drugs, electroshock, isolation, and psychological torture to see if they could create truth serums, erase memories, or even program people to kill on command. The tools were real, the ethics were non-existent. Victims included soldiers, prisoners, addicts, psychiatric patients, and even everyday citizens. Most had no idea they were being experimented on. LSD was slipped into drinks at parties. Electroshock machines were cranked to the limit. People were locked in sensory deprivation chambers for days. Some lost their memories forever, others lost their minds, and a few didn't survive at all. Families were never told, records were destroyed, whistleblowers were discredited. The truth only came out years later, buried in declassified files and broken lives. And it wasn't just the US. Other countries had their own secret programs, testing how fear, isolation, and manipulation could crack a person's identity and rebuild it in someone else's image. The idea of weaponizing consciousness was real and terrifying. Even today, the full extent of what happened remains hidden. What we do know is chilling, that governments once looked at the human mind not as sacred, but as a battlefield, a place to invade, conquer, and control, no matter the cost. AI spreads, fake news fast. In seconds, artificial intelligence can write convincing lies, create fake voices, generate realistic images, and build entire news stories that never happened. A headline, a video, a tweet. It takes just one viral spark to ignite chaos. And in a world hungry for content and driven by outrage, AI doesn't just spread misinformation, it accelerates it massively, relentlessly, silently. Fake news used to take effort. Someone had to write it, design it, share it. Now, AI can pump out thousands of false stories in minutes. Deepfake videos show politicians saying things they never said. AI-written posts mimic journalists with chilling accuracy. Troll farms use bots powered by machine learning to flood timelines, distort public opinion, and amplify hate. It's not just disinformation, it's weaponized truth decay. The worst part? Most people can't tell the difference. AI-generated content is often more persuasive than the real thing, sharper, more emotional, more clickable. And once a lie spreads, it sticks. Even when debunked, it lingers in people's minds, reshaping beliefs, influencing votes, sowing division. Facts can't keep up with speed, and truth becomes a casualty of automation. Governments, corporations, and extremist groups are already using AI to manipulate public opinion. Quietly, efficiently, ruthlessly. Elections are targeted. Protests are inflamed. Trust in media collapses. And the average person scrolling through their feed doesn't even know they've been lied to. AI wasn't born evil, but in the wrong hands, it's a propaganda machine that never sleeps. And as it learns faster than we can regulate, it's not just shaping the future of information, it's rewriting reality itself. You can be obese and malnourished. We're taught to believe that obesity means overeating and malnutrition means starvation. But in today's world, both can exist inside the same body. You can be overweight, even severely obese, and still be malnourished, starving on the inside while physically gaining weight. It's a cruel contradiction, one driven not by greed or laziness, but by the toxic food systems we've built. Highly processed foods, cheap, fast, and everywhere, are loaded with sugar, salt, and unhealthy fats, but stripped of real nutrition. They fill the stomach, but leave the body empty. No fiber, no vitamins, no minerals, just energy without nourishment. People eat more and more, not because they're greedy, but because their bodies are crying out for something they're not getting, and the system tells them to keep eating, to fill the hunger that never really goes away. This crisis hits the poor the hardest. Junk food is cheap, fresh produce is expensive, fast food is accessible, healthier options are not. In food deserts, gas stations and convenience stores replace grocery aisles. Families stretch small incomes by feeding their kids what's affordable, not what's healthy, and then they're blamed for the results. Malnutrition isn't just thin bodies, it's tired eyes, brittle bones, weakened immune systems, depression, and disease. Hiding inside people, society mocks for being too fat. We've equated size with health and ignored the truth that many are eating to survive in a world where real food has become a luxury and real nutrition is out of reach for millions. Obesity isn't always excess. Sometimes it's silent starvation. Suicide is a top cause of teen death behind school photos, TikTok posts, and quiet smiles. Countless teenagers carry a weight so heavy it eventually crushes them. Suicide is now one of the leading causes of death among teens worldwide, more than car accidents, more than cancer, more than most diseases. These are not just numbers, these are children, sons, daughters, siblings, friends, and they are dying by their own hands in bedrooms, bathrooms, schoolyards, places meant to feel safe. The reasons are complex, but the pain is real. Depression, anxiety, bullying, abuse, pressure to succeed, social media comparison, identity struggles, loneliness. Teens today are constantly connected, yet deeply isolated. Their phones show them filtered perfection while hiding their own feelings of failure, fear, and not being enough. Many feel they can't talk to anyone, that no one will understand, that their suffering doesn't matter, so they stay silent until it's too late. Some leave notes, some leave nothing, and those left behind ask the same questions. Why didn't I see it? Why didn't they say something? What could I have done? But by then, the room is empty, the laughter is gone, and the silence is forever. Mental health resources are underfunded. Schools are overwhelmed. Stigma still lingers, and society too often tells teens to toughen up instead of asking why they're breaking. This isn't rare, it's happening right now, and if we keep treating it like a taboo topic, more bright, brilliant, hurting young lives will end before they've even had a chance to begin, because sometimes what kills a teenager isn't illness or accident, it's a world that never made space for their pain. Kids work in unsafe factories. Right now, as you read this, millions of children, some as young as 5, are working inside dark, dangerous factories, not playing, not learning, working for hours that stretch into the night, for pennies a day, with no safety, no voice, and no choice. These are not stories from a century ago. This is now, in countries that supply the goods we wear, use, and consume every day. Children sew clothes, assemble electronics, roll cigarettes, make fireworks, and pack food in crumbling buildings with locked exits and toxic air. Many are exposed to sharp tools, heavy machinery, chemicals that scar their lungs and burn their skin. Accidents are common. Fingers are lost. Lives are ended before they even begin. They are not there by mistake. They are there because of poverty, because their parents can't afford to send them to school, because someone promised a job and delivered exploitation. Some are trafficked. Others inherit their parents' debt. All of them are robbed of a childhood. And behind their suffering are brands and industries that claim ignorance. Supply chains stretch so far, accountability gets lost. Companies deny, governments underreport, and the rest of the world keeps buying fast fashion, cheap electronics, holiday fireworks, without asking who paid the real price. These kids don't dream of toys, they dream of rest, of classrooms, of being seen, but the world keeps them hidden in the shadows of profit, where small hands do big work for a system that thrives on silence. Child labor isn't rare, it's everywhere. We just don't want to see it. Corporations own most farmland. The land that grows your food, wheat, corn, rice, vegetables, even livestock, is no longer in the hands of farmers. It's being swallowed up by corporations, billionaires, and investment firms who see farmland not as soil, but as an asset. In country after country, private ownership is vanishing. Today, a growing percentage of global farmland is controlled by a small group of powerful entities, many of whom have never worked a field, never touched the earth they profit from. This isn't a slow shift. It's a land grab. Corporations buy up acres by the tens of thousands, often from struggling farmers who can no longer compete in a rigged market. They lease it back at a cost. They industrialize it. They strip it for yield. And when the soil is exhausted or the margins shrink, they move on because they're not feeding people. They're feeding profit. Small farmers lose their land, their independence, their identity. Communities crumble. Local food diversity disappears, replaced by monocrops and chemical dependence. In some places, traditional farming families are pushed out by force, intimidation, or legal loopholes. And in the background, billionaires increase their holdings, some even buying up water rights along with the land. We're told this is efficiency, modernization, but what's really happening is the transfer of power from hands that grow to hands that own. When food production is controlled by a few corporations, food security becomes fragile, and the question becomes chillingly simple. What happens when the people who feed the world no longer own the ground they stand on? Life is patented like software in laboratories and corporate offices around the world. Living things, plants, animals, even human genes are being patented, not discovered, not protected, owned. Seeds, DNA sequences, cell lines, genetically modified organisms, filed, numbered, and licensed like pieces of code. Life, once sacred and shared, is now intellectual property, and whoever holds the patent holds the power. A corporation can own the rights to a seed that farmers have grown for generations. If a patented gene drifts into a farmer's field by wind or bees, they can be sued for stealing it, even if they never planted it. In some cases, entire species of food crops are genetically altered just enough to be claimed, and then locked behind corporate licensing fees. Farmers can't save seeds. They must buy new ones every season. Nature becomes a subscription service. It goes deeper. Human genes linked to diseases have been patented, meaning companies can charge thousands just to run a test on your own DNA. Life-saving treatments based on naturally occurring proteins are turned into billion-dollar assets. Even animals are engineered, then owned. Pigs, cows, salmon, designed in labs and sold with restrictions that forbid natural breeding or reuse. This is not science fiction. It's biotech reality, and it means life itself. What grows, what breeds, what feeds, and what heals is being commodified. If something can be genetically tweaked, it can be patented. And if it can be patented, it can be controlled. The world's most fundamental resource, life, is no longer free. It's intellectual property. And the question is no longer who protects life, but who profits from it. Marital rape is legal in some places. In parts of the world, including modern, democratic countries, a woman can be raped by her husband, and the law won't call it a crime, because in those places, marriage is seen as automatic consent. A wedding ring becomes a license to take, to violate, to silence. In these places, marital rape is still legal, not just ignored, legal. The law assumes that once vows are spoken, consent is permanent, that a husband has the right to his wife's body at any time, in any way, no matter how she cries, resists, or pleads. Her no is erased by the fact that she said, "I do," and so she is raped, in her own bed, in her own home, by someone who claims to love her. And when she tries to report it, she's told it's a private matter, a misunderstanding, a duty. These laws are not ancient relics. They exist now. In countries with modern constitutions, in nations that preach freedom and equality, some argue it's cultural, some say it would be too hard to prove, but the truth is simpler. It's about power, about control, about protecting the institution of marriage over the rights of the person inside it. Victims live in silence, shamed, disbelieved, often trapped economically or socially, and the trauma is deep because the betrayal doesn't come from a stranger in the dark. It comes from the one person they were told they could trust. This isn't just a legal failure, it's a human one, and every day these laws exist, they send a message that marriage can excuse violence, that love can erase consent, that some bodies still don't belong to themselves. Cities have extreme poverty and wealth. Walk through any major city and you'll see it. A luxury penthouse with floor-to-ceiling glass towering over a tent on the sidewalk below. A Bentley parked outside a gourmet grocery store, while just around the corner, someone digs through a trash can for food. This is the modern urban reality. Two worlds stacked on top of each other, sharing the same space but not the same life. In cities like New York, Mumbai, Los Angeles, Sao Paulo, and London, the rich live in fortified high-rises with private gyms, concierge doctors, and rooftop pools. Meanwhile, just blocks away, families crowd into roach-infested shelters, wait in line at food banks, or sleep on concrete. The gap is not just visible, it's brutal, it's intimate, and it's growing. Gentrification pushes the poor further out, while luxury condos go up faster than public housing can be repaired. Schools in rich neighborhoods offer robotics and organic lunches, while schools down the street have broken heaters and crumbling walls. The wealthy live longer, healthier lives. The poor die younger, often without being seen. It's not just unfair, it's engineered. Tax breaks for developers, cuts to social programs, rising rents, stagnant wages. Cities are built for profit, not people. They polish the skyline while ignoring the shadows. Policymakers praise growth while stepping over bodies on the way to work. Extreme wealth and poverty coexist in cities not by accident, but by design. The richest see the suffering, but from a distance. A view from the 60th floor, one they can turn away from with the swipe of a curtain. The poor don't get curtains, they get ignored. Solitary confinement lasts years. A man sits alone in a concrete box. No sunlight, no human touch, no conversation, just a steel door, a slit for food, and a ceiling light that never truly turns off. He's there 23 hours a day, sometimes 24. No crime inside prison put him there, just a decision. And he's been in that room for not days or weeks, but years. In the US and across the world, solitary confinement isn't just punishment, it's prolonged torture. Some are placed there for safety, others for breaking rules, some for no clear reason at all. Mental illness makes it more likely, and once inside, it's nearly impossible to get out. Appeals go ignored, behavior worsens, despair sets in. Studies show that just 15 days in solitary can cause irreversible psychological damage, paranoia, hallucinations, anxiety, depression. Now imagine 15 months or 15 years. There are prisoners who have spent decades in total isolation, entire generations of life, birthdays, seasons, sounds, lost to silence. They forget how to speak, how to make eye contact, how to exist around others. And when they're finally released, many straight from solitary into society, they're broken, not reformed, not rehabilitated, just wrecked by years, in a cage too small to stretch in, too quiet to scream in. Some were teens when they entered. Some are mentally ill and put there instead of treated. Some were innocent. Solitary isn't safety. It isn't discipline. It is slow psychological death, carried out legally, quietly, invisibly. A punishment that leaves no visible scars, but destroys from the inside out. Lies go viral, faster than truth. In the age of the internet, speed is everything, and lies sprint while truth stumbles behind. False information spreads faster, reaches more people, and triggers stronger reactions than verified facts. A fake headline can travel halfway around the world in seconds, while the truth takes hours, days, or sometimes never catches up. And by then, the damage is done. Social media algorithms are built for engagement, not accuracy. Outrage, shock, and fear get clicks. Lies are designed to provoke. Truth is often slow, complex, boring. A made-up scandal, a conspiracy theory, a doctored photo. They explode with likes and shares because they feel real. They confirm fears. They simplify the world. And once they take hold, they're almost impossible to erase. People believe lies that fit their emotions, not facts. A viral hoax is retweeted by millions before fact-checkers even begin. And even when debunked, the lie lingers. It's remembered longer. It's felt deeper. The truth becomes just another opinion in a sea of noise. Bad actors know this. Troll farms, disinformation campaigns, political groups, corporations. They weaponize falsehoods because they know how human brains work. They know we react faster than we reflect, that we share before we verify, that once trust in truth breaks, anything becomes believable. We live in a world where reality can be drowned by repetition, where the loudest lie becomes louder than any evidence. The virus of a lie infects minds, divides communities, and rewrites narratives, not because it's more convincing, but because it's more contagious, and the truth, no matter how vital, too often arrives too late. Animal markets spread disease. In crowded stalls under tin roofs and open skies, live animals, bats, birds, snakes, dogs, monkeys are stacked in cages, bleeding, defecating, and gasping for air. These are wet markets found in many parts of the world, where live animals are sold, slaughtered, and butchered on the spot. The sounds of suffering mix with the smell of blood, urine, and raw meat. It feels chaotic. It is deadly, because in these spaces, deadly diseases are born. Zoonotic diseases, viruses that jump from animals to humans, thrive in these conditions. SARS, bird flu, COVID-19, all are believed to have emerged from animal to human transmission, with wet markets acting as the bridge. When stressed, wild animals shed viruses more rapidly. Add close contact with humans, poor sanitation, and no oversight, and the result is a ticking time bomb. A single cough, a single cut, and a virus leaps across species and across the globe. These markets aren't just unsanitary. They're often illegal, trafficking endangered or wild animals. They ignore disease protocols. They slaughter with bare hands. They move sick animals without hesitation. And in doing so, they create the perfect storm for the next pandemic. Governments hesitate to ban them. Culture, economy, and politics all weigh heavily. But viruses don't care about traditions or trade. They only need one chance to spread, one moment of exposure to spiral into a global disaster. The next outbreak isn't a question of if, but when. And as long as animal markets operate unchecked, slicing into live flesh beside infected blood, that when draws closer, silently, invisibly, inevitably. Factory farming tortures animals. Behind the neat packages of meat in grocery stores lies a system built on suffering. Factory farming, where the vast majority of the world's meat, eggs, and dairy comes from, is not just efficient, it's brutal. Animals are treated not as living beings, but as units of production. They are bred, confined, mutilated, and killed in conditions so cruel most people would look away if they saw them in person. Chickens are crammed by the thousands into dark sheds, their beaks seared off so they don't peck each other out of stress. Pigs, some smarter than dogs, are locked in crates so small they can't turn around, forced to nurse litter after litter until their bodies give out. Cows are separated from their calves within hours of birth, their milk pumped by machines until their udders bleed. Many animals never see sunlight, never feel grass, never move freely, just metal, concrete, noise, and fear. They live in filth, surrounded by their own waste, pumped with antibiotics to survive conditions that would otherwise kill them. When they collapse from exhaustion or injury, they're dragged, kicked, or discarded. Some die before they ever reach slaughter. The ones that don't are often killed while still conscious, terrified, struggling, aware. This is not farming. It's mass industrialized cruelty, hidden behind sanitized labels like all natural or farm fresh. The meat may be cheap, the cost unbearable, because the truth is, factory farming doesn't just feed us, it tortures billions of animals in silence every single day, and we call it dinner. People die from lack of insulin. In a world filled with medical breakthroughs, where billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies thrive and life-saving drugs exist, people are still dying because they can't afford insulin. This isn't a tragedy of science, it's a tragedy of profit. For millions of people with type 1 diabetes, insulin is not optional. Without it, their blood turns toxic, organs fail, they slip into comas, they die, slowly, painfully, preventably. Insulin was discovered over a century ago, and its creators sold the patent for just $1, believing it belonged to humanity. But today, a single vial can cost over $300 in the US. Some patients need several vials a month. Without insurance, that's hundreds or thousands just to stay alive. People are forced to ration. They skip doses. They dilute it. They stretch it until their bodies give out. Parents watch their children grow sick because they can't afford the medicine sitting on a pharmacy shelf. Young adults die alone in apartments, found with half-used syringes and empty wallets. Meanwhile, the companies that control insulin make billions in profit. CEOs get bonuses, lobbyists block reform, and people die, not from lack of a cure, but from lack of access. This is not rare. It's not distant. It's happening in wealthy countries, in working-class families, to people who did nothing wrong except be born with a chronic illness, in a system that sees their survival as a business opportunity. Insulin exists, the technology exists, the greed exists, and because of that, so does the funeral, again and again and again. Being homeless is a crime in some cities. In cities across the world, especially in the wealthiest nations, simply existing without a home can make you a criminal. Not theft, not violence, just sleeping in public, sitting too long, lying on a sidewalk, or setting up a tent to survive the cold is enough to get you arrested, fined, or violently removed. In some places, even asking for help, panhandling, is treated like a threat. These are called anti-homeless ordinances, and they don't solve homelessness. They hide it. Cities ban sleeping in cars. They remove benches. They spray water under bridges. They install spikes on ledges to keep people from resting. Out of sight, out of mind. The problem isn't poverty, it's visibility. And the solution isn't housing, it's punishment. People who've lost everything, jobs, family, mental health, safety, are then fined for having nowhere to go. They're jailed for camping on public land because shelters are full or unsafe. They're treated not like humans in crisis, but like nuisances to be swept away. And once they have a criminal record, it becomes even harder to get a job, rent an apartment, or escape the cycle they never asked for. We criminalize the very symptoms of a broken system, and we do it while luxury condos rise above overcrowded shelters and unused properties sit empty behind gates. It's not just a policy failure, it's cruelty disguised as order. In a just world, people without homes need protection. In this one, they get police, because for some cities, the only unacceptable part of homelessness is having to see it. Some cops have arrest quotas. Not all arrests are about justice. In some cities and departments, officers are pressured to meet arrest and ticket quotas, unofficial or quietly enforced targets that turn law enforcement into a numbers game. It doesn't matter if a person is truly dangerous or if a crime even occurred. What matters is the count. How many stops, how many citations, how many cuffs. Because promotions, funding, and job security are sometimes tied not to public safety, but to performance metrics. Officers are told to be productive, make their numbers, or face consequences, and so corners get cut. Minor offenses become arrestable. People are stopped for no reason other than their skin color, location, or poverty. A broken taillight, loitering, smelling like weed, walking home the wrong way. Entire neighborhoods, mostly black, brown, or poor, become hunting grounds to meet a monthly target. Some officers admit they were told to go after easy arrests. Some blow the whistle and lose their jobs. Others stay silent and follow orders, even when it violates what they believe is right. Because in a quota-driven system, people become statistics, not citizens. Lives are ruined, jobs lost, immigrants deported, parents jailed, youth funneled into a system that never lets go, all because someone needed to check a box, pad a report, or justify a budget. Quotas shift the focus from protection to production, from justice to punishment. And when freedom becomes a figure on a spreadsheet, law enforcement stops serving the people and starts serving itself. Schools are influenced by corporations. Classrooms are supposed to be safe havens for truth, learning, and growth. But behind the whiteboards and textbooks, corporations have quietly taken a seat at the head of the table. From lesson plans to lunch menus, standardized tests to science curricula, big business shapes what children learn, eat, and even think. Education has become a battleground, and profit often wins over knowledge. Textbooks are edited to suit political or corporate interests, downplaying climate change, sanitizing history, or omitting anything that threatens industry agendas. Sponsors sneak branding into classrooms. Fast food companies hand out materials with logos. Tech giants offer free learning tools that track students' data, and sugary drinks are sold in school vending machines funded by beverage contracts. The line between education and advertising is getting thinner, and it's being crossed. Standardized testing, too, is driven by profit. Corporations design the tests, sell the prep materials, and collect massive government contracts, turning schools into factories that measure performance, not curiosity. Teachers are forced to teach to the test, not to the child. Creativity is crushed under deadlines, and students become data points in a system designed to serve shareholders. Even STEM programs are steered towards skills that benefit industries, not necessarily students' futures. The goal isn't always to educate critical thinkers. It's to build a workforce trained for corporate needs. And as funding for public schools shrinks, private companies step in with strings attached. Education is no longer free from influence. It's curated, filtered, packaged, and while kids sit at desks to learn how the world works, the world is already being sold to them, one lesson at a time. Mental health help is hard to find. In a world where more people than ever are battling anxiety, depression, trauma, and suicidal thoughts, mental health care remains shockingly out of reach. You can be in crisis, terrified, broken, ready to give up, and still wait weeks or months just to speak to a therapist. If you're poor, uninsured, or live in a rural area, the wait might be forever. The help is there, somewhere, but it's buried behind cost, stigma, and a system that's stretched far beyond its limits. Therapists are overbooked, clinics are understaffed, emergency rooms turn people away. Some patients are told to call back in 6 weeks. Others are handed a list of disconnected numbers. Many give up before they even start, and some don't live long enough to try again. For teens, getting help can require permission from parents who don't believe in therapy. For adults, it often means choosing between groceries and a copay. For people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, and trauma survivors, finding someone who understands your experience feels almost impossible. Even when help exists, it's often cold, rushed, or medication-focused, treating symptoms, not stories. We tell people to speak up, to get help, to not suffer in silence. But when they do, the system whispers back, "There's no space for you here," and the silence deepens. Mental illness doesn't wait for appointments. It doesn't pause for red tape. And yet millions are left alone in their darkest moments, not because they didn't want help, but because help never came. Oil spills are hidden from the public. When oil spills into oceans, rivers, or coastlines, the damage is immediate and devastating. Slick black poison coats marine life, kills birds mid-flight, suffocates coral reefs, and contaminates drinking water for entire communities. But what's even more terrifying is how often these disasters are hidden, covered up, downplayed, buried under silence, legal loopholes, and corporate spin. Oil companies move fast, not just to contain the spill, but to control the story. They hire PR firms, pressure journalists, restrict media access, and classify key information as sensitive. The result? The public rarely sees the true scale. Satellite images are withheld. Death tolls for wildlife are softened. Cleanup is exaggerated. Responsibility is blurred. Small-scale spills happen constantly, often unreported. Offshore rigs leak quietly. Tankers discharge waste into the sea at night. Pipelines rupture beneath farmlands and forests, and local residents find out only when the air smells like gasoline or their skin starts to burn. The health effects can last for decades. Birth defects, cancer, water you can light on fire, and still, the companies walk away, paying fines that barely dent their profits. Governments often help hide the truth. Regulations are weak, oversight is lax, environmental agencies are underfunded, or in some cases, directly influenced by the very industries they're supposed to monitor. And so the oil keeps flowing, the spills keep happening, and the truth keeps sinking to the bottom. We see polished commercials about green energy and eco-commitments, while oil quietly poisons ecosystems out of view. Because in the energy world, it's not just oil that's slick, it's the lies used to keep us in the dark. Gig workers lack basic rights. They deliver your food, drive your rides, walk your dogs, shop your groceries, and power the convenience of modern life. But gig workers often do it without health care, paid leave, job security, or even minimum wage protections. They're called independent contractors, not employees, a legal trick that lets massive companies avoid giving them the basic rights most workers take for granted. When a gig worker gets sick, there's no sick pay. When they're injured on the job, there's no workers' comp. When demand drops or an algorithm changes, their income vanishes overnight. No warning, no severance, just silence. They absorb the risks while the companies pocket the profits. And when they speak up, they're deactivated, fired without cause, without conversation, without appeal, because as far as the platform is concerned, they were never employees to begin with. Some drive 12 hours a day to earn enough to survive. Others sleep in their cars between shifts. Tips become lifelines. Ratings become threats. And behind every smiling delivery is a person being squeezed by an algorithm that never sleeps and a corporation that never listens. These workers aren't protected by labor laws. They don't get retirement benefits. They often can't unionize, and yet they're essential. During pandemics, natural disasters, and holidays, they show up. They make life easier for others while struggling to live their own. The gig economy sells freedom, but what it often delivers is exploitation, flexibility that bends until people break. And as the world leans more on their labor, their absence of rights becomes not just a flaw in the system, but a warning of where all work may be headed. Plastic is inside our bodies. Plastic, once praised as the miracle material of modern life, has seeped beyond our oceans, our landfills, our homes. It's now inside us. Tiny fragments called microplastics have been found in human blood, lungs, breast milk, placentas, and even the brain. We aren't just surrounded by plastic, we're carrying it, eating it, breathing it, living with it inside ourselves. Every time you drink from a plastic bottle, eat food wrapped in film, chew gum, or breathe in urban air, you may be ingesting microscopic plastic particles. They're shed from packaging, synthetic clothing, car tires, and even the water we consider clean. These fragments are so small, they slip through filters, enter our organs, and begin to accumulate, silently, invisibly. The effects? We don't even fully know yet, but early studies link microplastics to inflammation, hormone disruption, immune system damage, infertility, and potentially cancer. Some particles carry toxic chemicals on their surfaces, chemicals that cling to them like parasites. Once inside the body, they don't just sit there, they interfere. This isn't science fiction. It's happening now. Newborn babies are entering the world already exposed. Human blood samples, once expected to be sterile, now contain plastic debris. And while the plastic industry continues to grow, the planet and our bodies are quietly absorbing the costs. We thought plastic was disposable, but it's not. It doesn't break down. It breaks into soil, into animals, into us. The modern world runs on plastic, and now so do we, not by choice, but by consequence.